welcome to Mia Horror Stories. To make it easier on your eyes, this video plays against a black screen, so you can close your eyes, get comfortable, and let the story take over. But don't relax too much, the ending might just catch you off guard. Stay with me until the very last word. The first time it happens, I'm standing in the employee stairwell behind the coffee shop, balancing a cardboard tray of 4 iced lattes like it's a bomb. The stairwell always smells like wet concrete and old mop water. The fluorescent light above me buzzes on a slight delay, flickering as if it's thinking about quitting. Somewhere below, the back door slams and the sound climbs the metal steps like a small animal. My phone vibrates in my pocket, and I ignore it because I'm mid-step, and the tray is already tilting, and the lids are doing that soft plastic creak that means one wrong move, and I'm wearing oat milk. It vibrates again. Then again, 3 quick pulses, not a call, a notification. By the time I make it to the 2nd floor hallway, I've mentally composed an apology to the manager, whose latte is probably going to be a little foamy from the ride. I press my shoulder into the door and nudge it open, the tray out in front like an offering. "Saints," a voice says. "He's back." I blink into the office's amber light. It's late afternoon in downtown Portland, Oregon, the kind of day that can't decide between sunshine and drizzle. The floor-to-ceiling windows show the street below wet asphalt, brake lights smearing red on black, people crossing with hoods up, a bus exhaling. Inside, the office has the warm hum of work, keyboards, low voices, the occasional laugh that's immediately swallowed, like nobody wants to be the loud one. My team's area smells like printer toner and microwaved curry, and the peppermint hand sanitizer someone keeps buying in bulk. I set the lattes down on the common table, avoiding a stack of proofs and a bowl of those little clementines that always look more optimistic than anyone feels. "Who's back?" I ask, because I'm just trying to do my job, and my brain is still in coffee transport mode. "Your boyfriend," someone says, and it isn't teasing so much as a reflexive attempt to make the moment less sharp. I tug my phone out and glance down. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 5:41 p.m. Except I'm looking at the clock on the wall above the whiteboard and it's 4:42 p.m. For a second I assume it's a display lag, some kind of carrier hiccup. I tap the screen, lock it, unlock it. I rotate it like that's going to fix time. I check the top of the screen. The phone knows it's 4:42. The voicemail insists it's from 5:41. It's a stupid, minor disagreement between 2 things that are never supposed to disagree. "Hey," I say, turning the phone slightly toward the common table, like I'm showing them a weird insect. "Is my phone off?" Elliot leans in immediately, because Elliot always leans in immediately. He has the posture of someone who spends too much time hunched over projects and too little time sleeping. Elliot Marsh, 32 male. He's our senior designer, messy hair that never seems to fully dry, sleeves always rolled, a ring of coffee stains perpetually threatening the edge of his desk. He squints at my screen as if it's an image he can adjust in Photoshop. New voicemail, he reads out loud. Received 5:41. Right, I say, but it's 4:42. He looks up at the wall clock, then back to my phone, then checks his own. Okay, that's weird. Maybe it's time zone. Like the number is from New York. The timestamp is when you receive it, I say, and I'm surprised by how certain I sound. like I've been waiting for this argument. From the kitchenette, a laugh that stops halfway. Marissa Keller, 29, female. She's our account manager, which in practice means she is the closest thing we have to a person who can soothe both clients and creatives. She has a tidy bun and immaculate eyeliner, even on days where she clearly slept in her car between meetings. She holds her latte like it's an anchor. Maybe your phone is manifesting a future where you're already off work, she says. I would like to subscribe. It's not funny, I say, but I say it too softly, and it comes out like I'm asking permission to be unsettled. Elliot taps at my screen. Play it. I hesitate for a beat. The office is mid-afternoon normal. Someone talking about font licensing. Someone swearing quietly at a spreadsheet. The world is still in the groove it's been in all day. I don't want to be the person who makes the groove skip. Also, this is the part I don't say out loud. I've been getting voicemails from blocked and unknown numbers for months. Old habit, old relationship. A few of them were harmless. Some were not. I told myself that if I ignored it long enough, the world would get bored. I press play anyway, because now there's an audience, and audiences make you do things you shouldn't. The speaker crackles to life. That low bit rate hiss that always sounds like it's coming from the inside of a seashell. There's breathing. Not the dramatic, movie kind, just someone holding a phone too close to their mouth. Then my own voice. Hey, if you're hearing this, don't. It cuts out mid-syllable, and the voicemail ends. The office sounds fold around us again, but different. Like the air got heavier. Like the fluorescent bulbs are now aware of us. Elliot's eyebrows climb his forehead. Is that you? Marissa lowers her latte slowly, eyes on me. That's you. It's not, I say automatically. But it is. It's me on a bad day. Slightly nasal from allergies. A little rushed. The way I say when I'm trying not to say something else. I take the phone from Elliot and replay it, thumb too hard on the glass. Again, hiss, breath, my voice. Hey, if you're hearing this, don't cut. Okay, Elliot says, and his voice has dropped into that careful register he uses when a client is about to have a meltdown. Okay, that could be like AI. People can do that now. Deepfake voice stuff. There are apps. You think someone is deepfaking my voicemail to leave me a voicemail, I say. The words sound ridiculous as soon as they're out. Marissa looks toward the window like she can see answers on the wet street. Or it's a butt dial voicemail. Like you accidentally recorded yourself and it got saved weird. It says unknown number, I point out. Elliot's hand drifts to his own phone. Show me the number details. There aren't any. It's the blank silhouette icon and unknown. No transcription, either just a gray spinning circle that never resolves. Like even the transcription algorithm took one listen and opted out. I swallow. My mouth tastes like cold coffee. Could it be an old voicemail? Marissa asks gently. That got resent. Like a glitch. It's dated the future, I say. And as I say it, I hear how dramatic it sounds, like I'm asking them to follow me into a dark basement. Elliot tries to laugh and doesn't. Your carrier thinks you're living ahead of the rest of us. I look down at the voicemail list. My thumb scrolls, and my stomach tightens because I hadn't noticed before. There are 2 more in the list. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 6:03 p.m. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 7:18 p.m. The wall clock says 4:45 now. My phone says the same. I don't press play on those. Not yet. What the hell, I whisper, and I hate that it sounds like prayer. A chair squeaks behind me. Daphne Ruiz, 41, female. Daphne is our office manager, which means she holds the keys, the budgets, the snack orders, and the invisible authority of someone who has seen every form of workplace weirdness. She has a short gray streak in her dark hair and an unbothered face that could survive a fire drill without blinking. She steps into our little huddle holding a clipboard and a pen, as if she could take attendance for confusion. "What's happening?" she asks, not a question so much as a statement with a raised eyebrow. Elliot, like the class representative, turns his phone screen toward her. Her voicemail timestamps are wrong, and the voicemail is her. Kind of. Daphne's gaze moves to me. "Are you being harassed?" It's a simple question. It opens a trapdoor in my chest. I could say yes. I could say a name. I could say, my ex used to leave voicemails that were half apologies and half threats. I changed my number once, and he found it anyway. I could say, sometimes I still sleep with my phone face down because I don't want the screen lighting up at night. Instead, I say, I don't know. Daphne watches me for a beat, the way people watch someone who might fall. Then she reaches into her cardigan pocket and pulls out her own phone, older model, thick case. Put it on speaker again. I play the first one, the hiss, the breath, my voice. Daphne's face stays mostly the same, but her eyes sharpen. "That's you." "I know," I say, and my voice cracks on the last word, which makes my skin prickle with embarrassment. I hate crying at work. I hate feeling exposed in a place where my livelihood depends on seeming stable. Marissa touches my elbow. Not gripping, just present. Elliot says, could it be like some kind of voicemail server issue? Messages queued wrong. Daphne nods slowly. Could be a prank too. Do you have friends who would do this? Not like this, I say. Nobody I know thinks this is funny. Daphne's pen taps her clipboard once. Okay, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to spiral. We're going to check obvious things first. Airplane mode, restart. Check your voicemail settings. Elliot starts listing ideas like he's brainstorming a logo. Call your carrier. Check iCloud. Run malware scan. Change your voicemail password. Marissa adds, maybe delete and set up voicemail again. Or okay, this is going to sound paranoid. Maybe someone has access to your account. I'm staring at the 2 future timestamps like they're stains spreading. Play the next one, Elliot says softly. Maybe it'll explain itself. That makes my stomach drop, because in my head, I can already hear it. My voice saying something I don't remember saying, which means I will have to question whether I said it and forgot. And if I can forget that, then what else can I forget? I'm not a dramatic person. I pay rent. I keep a calendar. I use the same grocery store every week, and I know which aisle the pasta is on. My private flaw, the one I don't tell people because it makes them look at you differently, is that I don't trust my own memory as much as I pretend to. Not in the big, alarming way, just small gaps. Walking into a room and forgetting why. Checking the front door twice. Losing 10 minutes to scrolling and convincing myself it was 5. Once last year, I drove all the way to the wrong Fred Mayer and didn't realize until I was already in the parking lot, sitting there, blinking, like I'd been put down in the wrong place. It never felt dangerous, just slippery, like my brain has hands that don't always hold on tight. Now Elliot is looking at me like I'm holding a lit match over a gas can. Daphne says, we should document this before anything changes. Screenshot the timestamps. record the voicemail audio. If this is harassment, you'll want proof. The word harassment makes Marissa's mouth tight. I can send it to myself, Elliot offers. Or wait, no, he stops, because he realizes we're all now casually planning how to preserve evidence for something none of us can name. The office is still running around us, but the normal sounds are now background to this small, wrong thing. My phone buzzes again. A new voicemail slides in like a bead of sweat. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received. 8:02 p.m. It's still not 5 p.m. Marissa whispers, "Okay, no, that's not normal." Daphne takes a breath through her nose, steadying herself. "All right," she says. Option A, you call your carrier right now, from a landline if we can find one, and you ask for an escalation. Option B, we go down to the lobby and ask building security if they can pull camera footage of anyone loitering near the front or mailboxes. See if you've been followed. Option C, you turn your phone off and we pretend it isn't happening until you're home, and then you deal with it in your own space. Elliot adds, Option D, we play the next voicemail and see what the future you is trying to say. No one laughs. My thumb hovers over the second voicemail. 6:03 p.m. I can feel everyone's attention on my hand. I can hear the faint high whine of the lights. The watery city sounds through the window, my own breath slightly too loud in my ears. A normal day is asking for nothing from me except the usual email, deadlines, coffee, small talk. This voicemail is asking me to step out of that groove and look at the edge of something I can't see yet. I don't want to, and I do. Because if it's a glitch, the fastest way to stop feeling stupid is to prove it's a glitch. If it's harassment, the fastest way to stop feeling powerless is to know what the person wants. And if it's something else, something mechanical and human, and awful in a way I haven't named, then not knowing won't protect me. Daphne's voice softens. You don't have to listen here. We can go somewhere private. Marissa nods. We can go outside, or the conference room. Elliot doesn't say anything. He just watches me like he doesn't want to push, but also doesn't want to let the moment drift away. I look at the list of voicemails from hours I haven't lived yet. I look at the time, and I make a choice, not the big choice yet, not the one that puts you on a path you can't step off, but the small one that nudges you toward trouble because you can't stand the shape of not knowing. Conference room, I say, and my voice surprises me by sounding steady. No, just yeah, conference room. Daphne nods once, already moving. Marissa picks up her latte like we're just going to a meeting. Elliot scoops my phone charger off my desk, as if this is going to take a while. As we walk down the hallway, the glass-walled conference room waits like a clean box, bright overhead lights, reflecting our faces back at us in a way that makes us look more serious than we feel. My phone is warm in my hand. The second voicemail sits there, unplayed. Tomorrow is stamped on it like a misprint, like a lie, like a dare. And I follow them into the room anyway. The conference room smells faintly of lemon cleaner and dry erase marker. It's too bright in here. The overhead panels flatten everything our faces, the wood grain of the table, the stack of untouched pitch decks in the corner. Outside the glass walls, I can see a few heads turn as we close the door. Offices love a sealed room. Daphne pulls the blinds halfway down. All right, she says, voice even. Let's do this deliberately. I sit at the end of the table. My phone is face up in front of me, screen glowing like it's waiting for applause. Elliot stands behind me instead of sitting, one hand on the back of my chair. Marissa takes the seat to my right, hands folded, posture straight like she's about to take notes in a meeting that's going off the rails. Screenshot first, Daphne reminds me. I take screenshots of the voicemail list. The timestamps 6:03 p.m., 7:18 p.m., 8:02 p.m. glow in a clean Apple font, unbothered by how impossible they look. Okay, Elliot says. Airplane mode. Then back off. See if it resyncs. I flip it on. The signal bars disappear. The Wi-Fi symbol goes hollow. For a moment, nothing happens. I flip it off again. The bars return. A beat passes. The phone vibrates. Another voicemail slides in. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received 8:47 p.m. Marissa makes a small, involuntary sound. It's still 4:50. Daphne checks her watch out of habit. 4:51. Elliot swears under his breath. Okay, that's not a sync issue. The room feels smaller. The air smells warmer, like we've all exhaled at once. Play the second one, Daphne says gently. I press play on the voicemail stamped 6:03 p.m. The hiss is louder this time, like the phone is closer to fabric. There's movement, something brushing against the microphone. Then my voice again. Don't go back downstairs. Do you hear me? Don't. A sharp clatter in the background, a car horn, my voice, sharper now. The message cuts off. The room holds still. Elliot leans closer. Back downstairs. Like here. There's a stairwell, Marissa says immediately. Behind the coffee shop. I picture it without meaning to. The wet concrete, the flickering light, the hollow echo of footsteps. That's not proof of anything, I say too fast. It could be generic. Generic, Elliot says. How many times do you talk about not going downstairs? I don't know. The truth is I can't remember. Daphne is already in motion. She crosses to the door, cracks it open, and looks down the hallway toward the back exit. Then she closes it again, slow and deliberate. Okay, she says. We're not panicking, but we are taking this seriously. Marissa swallows. You said he, she says to me, like I personally chose that word. I heard it, I say. I heard myself say he. Elliot's jaw tightens. Your ex. The word lands between us like something fragile. His name is Aaron, but I don't say it. Saying it feels like dialing him into the room. He moved to Tacoma, I say. Last you heard from him, Marissa asks quietly. I hesitate. That's enough of an answer. Daphne sits down across from me now. Has he ever threatened you physically? Not directly, I say. He just shows up, sometimes. He'll leave voicemails that are half apologies and half other things. He likes to sound reasonable. And you haven't heard from him recently, Elliot presses. Not in a few weeks. I pause. I blocked his last number. The phone vibrates again. All four of us flinch. New voicemail, unknown number. Time received, 9:12 p.m. Marissa whispers, this is escalating. I stare at the growing list. The timestamps are marching forward in neat increments. 6:03, 7:18, 8:02, 8:47, 9:12. We haven't lived any of those minutes yet. Daphne says, we need to establish something. Is this predictive? Or is someone sending these now with altered metadata? Can you even alter metadata on a voicemail? Elliot asks. Not easily, Daphne says. But voicemail isn't magic. It goes through servers. Call the carrier, Marissa says. Now. I nod and tap the number for Verizon customer service. It rings once, then twice. The automated voice comes on, bright and indifferent. Your estimated wait time is 27 minutes. Elliot makes a face. We don't have 27 minutes if this thing is ticking forward in real time. Ticking toward what? I snap. He holds up his hands. I don't know, but it's not random. The phone buzzes again before anyone can respond. Another voicemail, new voicemail, unknown number. Time received, 9:43 p.m. Daphne's expression changes. It's subtle, but I see it. The shift from odd to urgent. What time does this building close? She asks. Officially, Elliot says. 7. Security locks the main doors. We can badge out through the back. And the stairwell, she asks. Always accessible, Marissa says. It leads to the alley. Tenants use it after hours. Daphne nods once. Play the third voicemail. My thumb hovers over 7:18 p.m. Wait, I say. If these are sequential, if they're in order, maybe we should listen, Daphne says firmly. I press play. The audio is louder. There's wind this time, thin and high. I can hear traffic more clearly. My voice is breathing hard. I told you not to go down there, I say in the recording. You never listen. He followed you from a dull thud, a gasp, the sound of something scraping concrete, then nothing. Marissa grips the edge of the table. That's outside. It's the alley, Elliot says. That echo, that's the alley. I shake my head. Or it's edited, spliced. Then, why reference the stairwell specifically? Daphne asks. My throat feels tight. Maybe because that's where I was when I got the first notification. The room goes quiet again. We're all doing the math now. I got the first vibration in the stairwell, before I knew what it was, before I checked the time. What if, Marissa says slowly, what if this isn't about the future? What if it's about something that already happened? What do you mean? Elliot asks. She gestures at the phone. What if you already went downstairs? What if something already happened and you're getting copies? That doesn't make sense, I say. I'm here, we're here. But you said yourself, she says gently, that sometimes you lose track of time. There it is, my private fear dragged into fluorescent light. I don't black out, I say sharply. I don't lose hours. No one said you did, Elliot says quickly. But I see the thought cross his face. The phone buzzes again. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 10:05 p.m. It's only 4:58. Daphne stands up abruptly. Okay. This is no longer theoretical. She looks at me. Do you have location sharing on? With Marissa, I say. And my sister. Check your location history, she says. Right now. See if there's any movement today you don't recognize. My hands feel clumsy as I open Google Maps. Timeline, today. The blue line shows my apartment in Northeast Portland this morning. The bus route downtown. The coffee shop. The office. There's a small gap between 4:36 and 4:41 p.m. That's when I was in the stairwell, I say. Probably bad signal. Elliot leans over my shoulder. Zoom in, I zoom. The blue dot flickers between the stairwell entrance and the alley behind the building. Marissa inhales sharply. It shows you outside. I wasn't outside, I say. I would remember stepping into the alley. Would you? Elliot says, and immediately regrets it. Sorry, I just mean GPS can drift. Daphne's voice cuts through. We need to rule out a physical threat. If someone is following you, if someone is waiting in that alley, this isn't just a tech issue. I'll go check, Elliot says, already moving toward the door. No, Daphne snaps. Not alone, I'll go, I say. All three of them turn to me at once. Absolutely not, Marissa says. It's about me, I insist. If someone's there, that's exactly why you're not going alone, Daphne says. My phone buzzes again. Another voicemail. New voicemail. unknown number. Time received, 10:32 p.m. The list is growing faster now. Play the next one, Elliot says, voice tight. I press 8:02 p.m. This time, the recording starts mid-stride. Footsteps on concrete, fast, my breathing is ragged. You need to run, I say to someone. I'm serious. He has a metallic clang, like a dumpster lid slamming. A man's voice in the background, muffled, but close enough to feel. Hey, stop. The recording ends with a sharp exhale and the dull thud of something hitting the ground. Marissa pushes back from the table, chair legs screeching. That's not nothing. That's not a glitch. Elliot's face has gone pale. That's a confrontation. Daphne reaches for her phone. We're calling building security and the police. No, I say immediately. They all stare at me. I don't want to call the police yet, I say, and I hate how defensive I sound. What am I going to tell them? That my phone says it's the future. You tell them you're being harassed, Daphne says calmly. You tell them you have reason to believe someone is in the alley. What if there is, I say. What if we send cops down there and it's empty? What if this is some elaborate prank and I look unstable? The word hangs there. Marissa's voice softens. You're not unstable, I know, I say. But that's how this sounds. The phone vibrates again. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received. 11:04 p.m. Elliot looks at the list. They're closing in on midnight. The implication lands without anyone saying it. Midnight of what? Daphne makes a decision. I can see it in the way her shoulders square. We're not waiting for this to tell us what happens at midnight, she says. We're getting ahead of it. How? Marissa asks. Daphne looks at me. We recreate the conditions. My stomach drops. What? You were in the stairwell when the first one came in, she says. Your location shows you near the alley between 4:36 and 4:41. Recordings sound like they're outside. We go downstairs together. In daylight, we check the alley. We see if there's anyone there now. And if there is, Elliot asks. Then we've ruled something out, she says. And if there is, Marissa whispers. Daphne doesn't answer that. The phone buzzes again. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received. 11:32 p.m. I don't need to play it to know it will be worse. We don't know what's happening at 11:32, Elliot says. What if that's the worst of it? Then we'd better know before it gets there, Daphne replies. The room feels like it's tilting slightly. Not physically, just in the way decisions tilt everything else. My flaw is this. When I'm scared, I want proof. I want to touch the thing and confirm it's real, because the alternative, that my mind could fabricate something this elaborate, is worse. I'll go, I say again. But we go together. Marissa hesitates. Security first. We can call them on the way down, Daphne says. Tell them we're checking something in the alley. Elliot nods reluctantly. We stick together, no splitting up. I look at my phone one more time. 6 future voicemails now. The latest stamped nearly midnight. The sun is still up outside. The street below is just traffic and rain and normal life. We have maybe, what? Marissa says, doing the math. 7 hours until 11:32. Or 7 hours until something we can't see, Elliot mutters. Daphne opens the conference room door. Let's not give it that long, she says. We step into the hallway together. As we walk toward the back exit, my phone vibrates again. I glance down without meaning to. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received. 12:01 a.m. The timestamp has crossed into tomorrow, and we're heading for the stairwell anyway. We take the back hallway like it's a shortcut we've used 100 times, but it doesn't feel like one now. The corridor runs behind the main office suite's beige walls, framed evacuation maps, a thin industrial carpet that never quite loses the smell of dust and old coffee. To our left are closed doors with frosted glass names. To our right, a row of narrow windows that look into a light well. Gray sky, a drip line, a pigeon balancing like it owns the place. Daphne walks first. She has that office manager stride that says she's done this before: flooded bathrooms, angry tenants, delivery people who don't know what rear entrance means. Elliot stays close behind her. Marissa and I bring up the rear. My phone is in my palm the whole time, screen lit, as if I'm afraid it'll vanish if I stop looking at it. Before we go out, Daphne says, slowing near the exit sign, we call security. Not to scare anyone, just to have someone aware. She pulls her phone out and dials a number taped to the wall above a fire extinguisher. There's a small sign, building security, 24 hours. It rings. Once, twice. A man answers, voice steady and bored in the way only a night shift voice can be during daylight. Leon Patel, 53 male. He's building security, gray mustache, slightly sagging uniform shirt, radio clipped to his belt. I picture him without seeing him yet, because every downtown building has a Leon. Someone who has watched thousands of people come and go and learned to sound calm even when he's not. Security, Leon says. Hi, Leon. It's Daphne Ruiz up on 2, Daphne says. We're heading down the back stairwell to check something in the alley. Just want you to be aware. A pause. Check what? Daphne glances at me once, then looks away. Possible loitering. We'd like to confirm if anyone's back there. Ma'am, Leon says carefully. If you're worried about someone, you want me to come with you. We can meet you downstairs, Daphne says. We're at the back exit now. Another pause, long enough that my neck prickles. Don't open that door until I'm there, Leon says. I'll be at the service door in 3 minutes. Daphne nods even though he can't see it. Copy that. She ends the call and looks at us. We wait. Elliot taps his fingers on the metal push bar like he's playing out a beat he doesn't like. I'd also call your carrier again, he says to me. The voicemail system could be compromised. I tried, I say. 27-minute hold. Marissa frowns. Try the fraud line or go through the app chat. I'll do it, Elliot says. He's already pulling his phone up, thumbs moving fast, as if speed itself could solve this. The exit sign hums softly above us. Through the narrow window in the door, I can see the stairwell landing, gray concrete, a metal railing, the faint flicker of a fluorescent tube. The same stairwell that vibrated in my pocket not even 20 minutes ago. My phone buzzes. All 4 of us flinch like we've been trained. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 12:24 a.m. It's 5:09 p.m. Marissa's face tightens. It's not slowing down. I don't play it. I just stare at the timestamp, feeling like I'm watching a clock that's counting down to something I can't see. Footsteps approach from the main hallway. Heavy, deliberate. A radio crackles. Leon rounds the corner with a key ring that could anchor a boat and a small flashlight in his hand, even though it's still light outside. He looks us over quickly, Daphne, Elliot, Marissa, then me with the phone. What's going on? He asks, and his tone is still calm, but his eyes are no longer bored. Daphne gives him the short version, which sounds ridiculous even when she makes it sound competent. She's getting voicemails from an unknown number. They're time-stamped ahead. They mention the stairwell and the alley. We want to check if anyone's back there. Leon's eyebrows lift. Time-stamped ahead. Future, Elliot says, then winces at himself like that's too dramatic. Leon glances at my phone. I tilt it so he can see the list. He doesn't try to understand it. He just registers that it's wrong. Okay, he says, we do this clean. No hero stuff. We go down together, we look, we come back up. You see anything, you don't approach. You tell me. Daphne nods. Marissa nods. Elliot nods. Nod too, but my throat is tight. Leon unlocks the stairwell door. The hinge squeals as it swings open. The air inside is cooler, more humid. It smells like concrete and old paint and the faint sourness of standing water. We step onto the landing. The fluorescent tube above us flickers and steadies, buzzing faintly. The sound is like a mosquito you can't find. Leon leads down the first flight. The geometry is simple. 2 flights down from the second floor to the ground. A switchback landing between. The stairwell has small, rectangular windows set into the outer wall, showing slivers of the alley as we descend. Brick, a dumpster, the shine of wet pavement. My phone buzzes again as we hit the first landing. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 12:31 a.m. Leon hears the vibration and glances back. You expecting someone? I shake my head. No, he doesn't ask again. He just continues, one hand near his radio. By the time we reach the ground floor, my shoulders are up around my ears. The metal steps clang under our shoes, each footfall louder than it should be in a building full of people. At the bottom is a heavy service door with a narrow window. Beyond it, the alley. Leon holds up a hand. Stay back, he says quietly. He leans in, peers out the window. For a few seconds, he doesn't move. My mind supplies silhouettes. A man leaning against the dumpster. A face in the dark gap between 2 buildings. The shine of something metallic. Leon straightens and opens the door with his keys. A gust of damp air rushes in. It smells like rain, diesel exhaust, and something sweetly rotten from a nearby trash bin. We step into the alley. Downtown Portland alleys have their own logic. This one runs north-south between our building and a restaurant supply shop. The ground is patched asphalt, puddled and uneven. On the west side, dumpsters, a stack of flattened boxes, a metal staircase leading to another tenant's back door. On the east, a brick wall with a few security lights and a line of utility conduits. At the far end, the alley meets the street traffic noise and the occasional whoosh of a bus. Leon sweeps the flashlight beam slowly, even though it's still bright enough to see. Habit, control. There's no one leaning against anything. No footsteps retreating. No shadow sliding away. Normal trash and wet ground and city noise. Elliot exhales loudly. Okay, Marissa's voice is tight, so the voicemails are lying. Or they're about later, I say, and I hate that I can't stop my brain from making it a schedule. Leon walks to the dumpster and shines the light behind it. Nothing, he says. He checks the metal staircase, the base of it, the dark space underneath. Nothing. Daphne points toward the back door of the coffee shop, a few yards up the alley. That stairwell entrance, she says. The one she used. We move as a group. The coffee shop's back door is painted black and scuffed. A small overhang drips water steadily into a puddle. The stairwell entrance is a recessed doorway with a security keypad, tenant only. Leon studies the keypad. Any sign of tampering? No, Daphne says. My phone vibrates again. My hand jerks reflexively. Leon notices. How many is that now? Too many, I say. Elliot steps closer to the stairwell entrance and squints at something. Hold up, he crouches, fingers hovering over the damp ground without touching. There, he says, a small smear on the concrete near the threshold, darker than rain, reddish brown. My stomach drops into my shoes. Marissa whispers, "Is that?" Leon's flashlight beam lands on it. He doesn't react like a movie cop. He reacts like someone who has seen enough to know what it might be and enough to know not to assume. Could be anything, he says, but his voice has changed. He kneels carefully, not touching, just looking. Rust, sauce, could be from a trash bag. Elliot's eyes flick toward me, or blood. I feel heat creep up my neck. It's not, the word dies because I don't know what it is. Leon pulls his radio up. Leon to desk, he says. I need the exterior camera feed for the service alley by the coffee shop. Is it working today? Static. Then a different voice, tinny, distant. Camera, has been glitchy since last week, Leon. Freezing. Leon's jaw tightens. Of course it has. That's attempt 1. Check the alley, verify the threat, rely on cameras. And it's already partial. No person, possible evidence. Cameras unreliable. Daphne looks like she's doing the same assessment. We need to know if anyone was back here earlier, she says. Marissa points up. There's a security light above the door. Motion sensor. Does it log? Leon shakes his head. No logging, just on or off. Elliot stands, rubbing his hands on his jeans like he touched something even though he didn't. I'm getting the carrier chat to respond, he says. They're asking for your account PIN. I blink. I don't know it. He stares at me. You don't know your voicemail PIN. I said it years ago, I say, and my voice comes out small. I never use it. Marissa looks pained. Okay, reset it. Elliot taps. Reset requires a text code. My phone buzzes again. Another voicemail. No text code. Elliot's face tightens. You're not getting texts. I am, I say automatically, then check. There are no new texts, no missed calls, just voicemails piling up like they're bypassing everything else. Leon watches my screen. That's not normal, he says quietly. Voicemail shouldn't be the only thing reaching you. Daphne's voice stays level, but her eyes are sharp. Do you have do not disturb on? No. Any focus mode? No. Any call forwarding? I don't think so. Tempt 2 forms fast. Regain control of the account. Reset PIN. Contact carrier. Lockdown access. And it's already failing because we can't even get the verification code. Elliot tries again. Send code, he mutters. Nothing. Marissa is scanning the alley now, not for people, but for pattern where someone could hide, where someone could watch, where someone could wait. Her fingers are white around her phone. My phone buzzes again. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 12:44 a.m. I swallow. My mouth tastes metallic. Daphne says, we need to call 911. I shake my head too quickly. No, not yet. Why? Leon asks, and there's no judgment in it, just a practical need to understand. Because if police show up and there's no one, and the smear is ketchup, and the camera is glitchy, then the story becomes, woman with anxiety imagines a stalker because of a phone glitch. That story will stick to me. It will make the next real thing harder, because I'm afraid my own mind is the weak link, and I don't want anyone else to decide that for me. I start. My phone buzzes again. This time it's not a vibration. It's a ring. A call, unknown number. The screen lights up with unknown and the green accept button. All of us freeze, even Leon. Elliot's whisper is barely audible. Answer it. Daphne's voice is firm. Put it on speaker. My thumb hovers. My heart thumps against my ribs like it's trying to get out. I accept. Hello, I say, and I hate how thin it sounds. Static at first, then a faint rush of sound, wind, traffic, the hollow echo of a stairwell. And then my voice again, clearer than the voicemails. Live, but not live. I'm in the stairwell, the recording me says. Listen to me, please. He's coming up. You need to. A loud bang explodes from above us. Marissa screams, short, sharp. Elliot lunges backward. My whole body jolts. The sound echoes through the alley, metallic and violent, like a dumpster being slammed or a door kicked. Leon moves instantly, stepping in front of us, flashlight up. Back, he orders. For one terrifying second, I see what my brain wants to see. Someone at the top of the metal staircase, something in their hand. Then the security light above the restaurant supply shop flickers on, and the figure is just a black plastic tarp whipping loose in the wind, snapping against a metal railing. The bang is the tarp's grommet striking the pole. Over and over, misdirection, terrifying, and then painfully mundane. My chest still hurts like it was real. Leon doesn't relax, though. He keeps scanning, because the fact that it's explainable doesn't mean we're safe. On the phone, recording me says, "Don't open the service door. Don't open it." He's right. The line goes dead. Elliot stares at me like he's seeing a crack in reality he can't ignore. That was a call. It was a recording, I say. But it came through as a call, Marissa says, voice shaking. Not voicemail. Leon's eyes narrow. Someone can spoof calls, he says. They can route through services. They can make it look like unknown. Daphne is already pulling her phone out again. We're calling the police. Elliot says, wait, if that was a recording of you in the stairwell, then you were there today, or someone recorded you there. I was there, I say, to get coffee. No, he says, voice rising. Not that audio, he asks, coming up. It's not coffee run you. My skin prickles. My hands tremble around the phone. Leon steps closer. Let me see your phone, he says, and I hand it over without thinking, grateful for someone else's steady hands. He scrolls quickly, then stops. Your voicemail indicator, he says. It's not showing a carrier label. Usually theirs. I don't know what it usually shows, I say. It's behaving like an app, he mutters, and then he looks up. Do you have any voicemail apps installed? No, I say. Its eyes widen. What about call recording apps? No, Marissa says. Could someone have installed something on your phone? My stomach twists. When? Elliot answers without meaning to, voice small, when you weren't paying attention. There it is again. The fear that my own lapses are the opening. Leon hands the phone back. We need to get you to a safe place, he says. Inside, not the alley, not the stairwell. Daphne nods. Back upstairs. We start moving, fast now, our shoes splashing in shallow puddles. And then my phone vibrates so hard it almost jumps out of my hand. A new voicemail appears at the top. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 12:59 a.m. I don't know why I press play. Maybe because the call rattled me. Maybe because I'm desperate for something to be consistent. If the future keeps sending messages, at least let it speak plainly. The voicemail opens with harsh breathing. Then my voice, strained and urgent. Daphne, don't. Leon is hurt. He's bleeding. The door, the message cuts out. I stop walking so abruptly Elliot bumps into me. What? Marissa snaps, turning. I hold up the phone. My fingers have gone numb. It says Leon is hurt. Leon's head turns sharply. What did it say? It said my mouth feels full of cotton. It said you're bleeding. It said the door, something about the door. Leon's expression hardens into something I don't like. It's the look of someone hearing their own name in a threat. Daphne's voice goes low. Back inside. Now, we're a few yards from the service door. Leon reaches it first, keys ready. He pauses, hand on the knob, and looks back at us. "Don't open the service door," the call recording me had said. "Don't open it," Daphne says now, echoing it, and then catches herself like she hates that she's repeating a ghost instruction. Leon's jaw works. "This door," he says, pointing at the service door to the lobby, or the stairwell door. "No idea," Elliot says. "But if it's saying Leon gets hurt, maybe." A sharp click comes from behind us. Not a bang, not wind, a click like a latch. We all turn. The coffee shop's back door, black, scuffed, has shifted. The seam of it is no longer flush. It's open a fraction, maybe 2 inches, just enough to show a line of darkness. I didn't see it move. I just see that it's different now. Maris's voice is a whisper. That was closed. Leon's flashlight snaps toward it. "Who's there?" he calls, loud and authoritative. No answer. The darkness behind the door looks thick, like the stairwell swallowed light. Elliot takes a step toward Leon, then stops himself. His hands are shaking. Daphne says, "Leon, don't." The door opens another inch. Slow, not gusted by wind, not flung by a careless employee. Deliberate. My breath catches. The hairs on my arms rise. My phone feels slick in my grip. Leon moves toward it, shoulders squared. And my phone buzzes again, one more voicemail, stamped even later. But I don't look at the time because my eyes are locked on the widening gap in that door. This is the point where you would normally retreat. You would go back upstairs. You would call police and wait in a bright lobby with cameras. But we can't retreat the way we came, because Leon is between us and the stairwell door now, and because the coffee shop door is opening into the only enclosed space in the alley, and because whoever is on the other side has just made a move that says they know we're here. Leon reaches for the door edge. Daphne grabs his sleeve. "Wait for backup," she says, voice tight. Leon's radio crackles static, and then a fragment of voice. "Leon, the service entrance locked just." The transmission cuts off mid-sentence. Leon looks down at his radio like it betrayed him. Then he looks at us. "I'm not leaving this," he says, and his calm is gone now. It's been replaced by something sharper, responsibility, and maybe pride, and the simple human refusal to step away from a door that is opening on its own. He pulls the door wider, and the stairwell light inside flickers once, twice, like it's about to go out. We follow him in, because in that moment, standing in the wet alley with the door opening, and the voicemail's warning, and the service lock apparently malfunctioning, there's no safe outside anymore. Only forward. The stairwell swallows us the second we cross the threshold. The coffee shop back door shuts behind Leon with a heavy, soft thud that sounds final in a way a door shouldn't. The air inside is cooler than the alley, damp with that concrete basement smell, and the fluorescent tube above the landing flickers hard, bright, dim, bright, like it's struggling to stay on. Leon's flashlight beam cuts a pale circle across the steps. "Stay close," he says. His voice is steady, but the fact that he has to say it tells me he's not sure either. We're on the ground floor landing. Ahead is the first flight up toward our office level. Behind us is the door we came through. To the side is the service corridor door that leads into the building's lower hall, supposedly. Leon tests that service door first. He reaches for the handle, turns it. Nothing. He tries again, harder. The knob doesn't give. It's stuck, he mutters, and then he puts his shoulder into it with a controlled shove. The door doesn't budge. Daphne's voice goes tight. That's the lock. Leon looks at his radio again like it might explain itself. He keys the mic. Desk, I'm at the service door. It's not opening. Confirm you still have power to the maglock. Static answers him, then a faint fragment. Not panel, and then the channel goes dead. Elliot tries his phone. No signal down here, he says, and I hear the panic he's fighting to keep out of his voice. Or like one bar, it keeps dropping. My phone buzzes, even in here, like it's not relying on the same rules. A new voicemail flashes at the top of the list, stamped 1:07 a.m. I don't play it. I can't. Marissa presses her palm against the concrete wall as if grounding herself. Okay, she says. Okay, we go back out the way we came. Leon reaches for the coffee shop door behind us. It doesn't open. He tries again, then checks the latch. It's locked, he says, and there's a new edge to his comm now. It's latched from the alley side. That's not possible, Daphne says, but the words come out like she already knows it is. Leon's keys jangle as he tries a different key, then another. This is tenant door hardware, he says. Not building. I don't have it. Elliot lets out a short laugh that isn't laughter. So we're trapped in a stairwell. No, Leon says firmly. We have the stairs up. We all look upward together. The flight above us disappears around the switchback. The light flickers again, buzzing louder, the sound crawling under my skin. Somewhere higher up, a faint scuff, like a shoe adjusting, or a bag dragged an inch. Leon raises a hand. Hold, he whispers. Silence in a stairwell isn't silence. It's breathing and the electrical buzz and distant building hum. The smell of coffee shop grease faintly seeping through the door. My heart thudding hard enough I can feel it in my throat. Another scuff. Then a voice from above. Hey, male, close enough to bounce off the walls. Marissa's fingers clamp around my elbow. Daphne's breath catches. Leon's flashlight beam snaps upward, hitting the underside of the next landing. Who's there? Leon calls. A pause. Then softer, like coaxing a skittish animal. It's me. I'm not here to hurt anyone. The phrase makes my stomach twist because people who aren't here to hurt anyone don't announce it in stairwells. Elliot shifts his weight. The metal step under him gives a tiny squeak. The sound ricochets. Above us, movement. A silhouette comes into view at the top of the first flight, just the lower half of someone's body at first, dark jeans, scuffed sneakers. Then the flashlight catches a face for a split second before the flicker of the overhead tube steals it again. But I already know. It's the jawline, the shape of his mouth when he's trying to look sincere. Aaron. He doesn't look like a monster. That's the worst part. He looks like someone who could be in line at the coffee shop, someone who could ask for oat milk and tip $1, and then follow you into an alley. He holds one hand up, palm out. In the other hand is his phone. When he speaks again, it's not to us. It's into the phone, angled like he's recording. Hey, he says, and my blood doesn't run cold, but something in my chest goes tight and hot because he's saying it in a careful imitation of me. If you're hearing this, he stops, watching my face as if checking the effect. You like that, he says to me, normal voice now. You always hated leaving messages. My mouth goes dry. Aaron, I manage. Marissa's voice breaks. You know him. Leon's shoulders square. Sir, he says, authoritative. You need to come down slowly. Keep your hands where I can see them. Aaron laughs under his breath like Leon is an extra in a scene he wrote. Don't talk to him like that, Aaron says, still looking at me. He's not the point. Daphne Daphne's voice goes sharp. Why are you here? Erin's expression shifts, hurt, offended, practiced. Because she won't answer, he says, and he tilts his head toward me like I'm a problem to be solved. Because she blocks me. Because she thinks she gets to just disappear. People don't get to do that. Leon takes one step up. Sir, Erin's gaze flicks to Leon, and the friendliness drops like a mask slipping. Back up, Erin says, and there's a hard warning under it. I'm not here for you. Leon doesn't back up. Erin's thumb moves on his phone screen, and my phone buzzes in my hand at the exact same moment, like it's responding to his touch. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time received, 1:14 a.m. Elliot's voice comes out tight and incredulous. He's doing it. He's sending them. Erin smiles at Elliot like he's pleased someone finally caught up. It's not hard, Erin says. Voicemail timestamps are server time, UTC. You'd be amazed what breaks when you port a number or when you get the carrier to help you reset things. He says help like it's a joke. Your phone is reading it wrong. It thinks UTC is local, so yeah, looks like tomorrow. Daphne's eyes sharpen. You messed with her carrier account. Erin shrugs with one shoulder casual. I called, I talked, I knew her address. I knew the last 4 of her. He stops himself, grinning. It's not that complicated. People think systems are smarter than they are. My stomach drops, not because it's clever, but because it's so ordinary. Elliot swallows. And the voice, the messages. Erin lifts his phone slightly. You leave enough audio out in the world, you can make a person say anything. His eyes stay on me. You're everywhere, you know. Old voicemails, voice notes, videos. It's not magic, it's just data. Marissa makes a sound like she's about to cry or vomit. Leon's voice stays hard. Sir, you are trespassing. You are harassing her. You need to come down. Erin's smile twitches. And then what? You walk me out. You call cops. You think cops will show up fast enough for a staircase dispute. He takes one step down. My body locks. The smell of damp concrete, the buzz of the fluorescent, the narrowness of the space, it all presses in. My private fear flares, that slick sense of time sliding. What if I've been here before? What if I already had this conversation and my brain is just replaying it wrong? Erin's voice softens again, aimed at the tender parts. Come on, he says to me. We just need to talk somewhere you can't run away. That's all, Daphne snaps. No. Erin's head turns slightly, annoyed now. I wasn't asking you. Leon moves up another step. Erin's hand dips toward his jacket pocket. Leon sees it. Hands up, he barks. Everything happens fast and stupid and human. Erin yanks something out, small, metallic. Not a gun, a box cutter. The kind you can buy at a hardware store for $9. Leon lunges before Erin can decide what he's doing with it. They collide on the step above us, bodies slamming into the metal railing with a harsh clang that rings through the stairwell. Leon grabs Erin's wrist. Erin twists, jerking his elbow hard. The box cutter flashes. Leon grunts. He doesn't go down. He just makes a sound like air punched out of him. And then I see it dark blooming on the pale fabric of his uniform sleeve, spreading quickly. The voicemail I didn't want to believe turns real. Marissa screams. Elliot surges forward on instinct, and Daphne grabs him by the back of his shirt, yanking him down like she's saving him from fire. Leon, Daphne shouts. Leon's radio clatters against the railing, cracking static into the air. He pins Erin against the wall, trying to keep the blade away from all of us. Erin's face is twisted now, not calm, not charming. Angry, cornered. You should have backed up, Erin snarls. The fluorescent light flickers again, and for a second everything goes dimmer, like the building is holding its breath. I'm shaking. My hands are useless. My mind is screaming for me to do something, but my body is still stuck on that moment when Erin said, "Come somewhere you can't run away." Daphne's voice cuts through, sharp and commanding. "Pull the fire alarm." Elliot blinks. "What? Fire alarm?" she repeats. "Now, it'll bring people. It'll unlock doors. It'll get responders faster than waiting on a voicemail explanation." My eyes snap to the red pull station mounted on the wall behind us, halfway up the landing, the kind you never notice until you need it. Elliot takes 2 steps toward it, then hesitates like he's imagining the consequences: sprinklers, fines, chaos. Daphne's voice breaks, and that's what does it. "Do it." Elliot yanks the alarm. The sound is immediate and brutal, an electronic wail that fills the stairwell and drills straight into my skull. Strobe lights begin flashing, red and white, making Erin and Leon's struggle look like a series of frozen photos. Somewhere above, a door slams open. Voices, footsteps. Leon's grip slips for a fraction of a second, maybe from pain, maybe from the strobe and noise and adrenaline, and Erin rips free enough to swing the box cutter outward. The blade catches Elliot across the forearm. Not deep, but enough. A bright, sharp line opens, and blood beads instantly, startlingly red against pale skin. Elliot swears loudly, staggering back, eyes wide. "Oh, Jesus." Marissa grabs his wrist reflexively, pressing her hand over the cut, and she immediately regrets it because now her palm is slick, and she looks at it like she can't believe it's real. Leon tries to re-engage, but his injured arm is weakening. Blood is now dripping down toward his hand, falling onto the concrete in slow, heavy drops. The smear we saw outside wasn't ketchup. It was rehearsal. Erin backs up 2 steps, blade still in his hand, eyes darting between us and the stairwell above as footsteps pound downward. "Stay back," he yells, and he sounds frightened now too, which is worse because fear makes people do dumb things. Daphne's gaze flicks to the locked service door at ground level, then to the coffee shop door, then up. "Go up," she tells me, voice clipped. "Now, get out. Get help." My feet don't move. My flaw clamps down hard, the disbelief that I can't trust my own mind unless I see it through. If I run now, I'll always wonder if I made it worse by leaving. If I run now, I'll never forgive myself if Leon bleeds out on a stair. Erin's eyes find mine again. "See," he says, voice strained over the alarm. "This is what happens when you don't answer. People get hurt." Something in me snaps, not cinematic, not brave, just exhausted and furious. "You're not the victim," I shout back, and my voice comes out raw. "You're the reason." He flinches like I slapped him. The footsteps above get closer. A door opens. A man's voice yells, "Security." What the hell is going on? Erin's attention flickers upward. Leon takes that fraction of distraction and drives his shoulder into Erin's chest. Erin stumbles. His sneaker slips on the metal edge. The box cutter skitters out of his hand, clanging down the steps. It lands on the landing between me and Marissa. For one breathless second, it's just there. A tool, a choice. Marissa's eyes meet mine. Her face is wet tears or sweat, I can't tell. "Kick it," she gasps. I do. Hard. The box cutter shoots across the landing, spins, and slides toward the wall, out of Erin's reach. Erin sees it go and makes a desperate lunge for it anyway. Leon grabs him again, but Aaron twists, throwing his weight sideways. They crash into the railing. The railing groans, metal complaining under two bodies. Leon's injured arm gives. He grits his teeth, trying not to go down. Elliot, pale and shaking, uses his good hand to rip his belt off, leather, thick, and stupidly office casual. He tosses it toward Daphne. "Tie him," he shouts, voice cracking. Daphne catches it awkwardly, then looks at Leon like she needs a clear moment. But there isn't one. The stairwell door above bursts open, and two tenants spill onto the landing, startled, wide-eyed, drawn by the alarm and the shouting. They stop when they see blood. One of them, a guy in a rain jacket, backs away instantly. "I'm calling 911, he blurts, and fumbles his phone. Good, finally, a normal response. Aaron uses the distraction to wrench free one more time. He doesn't go for the blade. He doesn't have time. He barrels downward, aiming straight for me. I don't think. I just react. I step sideways and shove, using the weight of my body, the slick fear in my muscles, the fact that stares don't forgive. Aaron clips my shoulder as he passes. I slam into the wall, pain sparking down my arm. My phone flies out of my hand and hits the step with a sharp crack. Aaron loses his footing. His sneaker catches the edge of the stair tread. His knee buckles. He goes down hard, hip and shoulder hitting metal. The sound is awful, bone meeting stairs. Doesn't tumble all the way down, but he lands twisted across the steps, gasping, face contorted. Leon is on him instantly, pinning him with his good arm, forcing his hands behind his back. Daphne drops to her knees and loops Elliot's belt around Aaron's wrists, cinching it tight with shaking hands. It's ugly and improvised, and it works enough. Aaron groans, breath coming in short bursts. You pushed me," he spits, like that's the crime here. "Yes," I say, and my voice is shaking now too. "I did. My shoulder burns. My fingers tingle. When I look down, there's a scrape on my palm and a smear of my own blood from where I caught the wall." Marissa is pressing her hand hard to Elliot's arm, trying to slow the bleeding. Elliot's face is gray, eyes glassy from adrenaline. Leon is still bleeding too. The dark stain has spread up his sleeve and down to his wrist. The alarm continues to scream. Above us, more doors open, more voices. Someone coughs. Someone swears. Far away, through the building's concrete and metal, I hear sirens finally thread into the soundscape, thin at first, then closer. Not a sudden savior, just the slow machinery of response finally turning its gears. Leon's voice is strained. "Don't let him talk to her," he grits out, and I realize he's saying it to the bystanders, not to us. He's already thinking ahead, even as blood drips onto the concrete. Daphne looks at me, eyes bright with fear and resolve. "Are you okay?" she asks, and the fact that she asks it at all makes my throat tight. "I don't know," I say honestly. My phone lies on the step where it fell, screen spiderwebbed, still lit. A voicemail notification sits there like nothing happened. I pick it up with shaking fingers. The latest voicemail is stamped 1:22 a.m. I press play because I can't stop myself. Static, breath, my own voice, quieter now, worn down. "It ends in the stairwell," I say in the recording. "He's going to say you made him do it. Don't believe him." "Don't," the message cuts off. I stare at the shattered screen until my eyes blur. In front of me, Aaron is breathing hard, pinned and bound, his face twisted with pain and fury, and something that still wants control even now. Leon's blood drips steadily. Elliot's arm is wrapped in Marissa's trembling hands. Daphne's knees are soaked from the wet concrete. My shoulder throbs with every breath. The central threat is here, exposed and human, and pathetic and terrifying. And even though it's over one way or another, I can feel the cost settling in, heavy and immediate. The knowledge that the world's systems are easy to bend, the fact that my own voice can be weaponized, the way my mind will now replay stairwells and alarms and buzzing lights every time I hear a phone vibrate. Sirens grow louder. Leon exhales, grimacing. "Stay with me," he mutters, maybe to himself, maybe to all of us. We do, because there isn't anywhere else to go. The alarm keeps screaming long after Aaron stops fighting. It echoes off the concrete and metal and makes everything feel unreal, like we're inside a machine that doesn't know how to shut itself off. By the time the first Portland police officer pushes through the stairwell door from above, Leon is sitting on the landing with his back against the wall, pale and sweating, pressing his own hand over the slice in his arm. Aaron is on his side 2 steps down, wrists bound awkwardly behind him with Elliot's belt. He's breathing hard, more stunned than anything else. He doesn't look at me anymore. The officer takes in the scene in one sweep: blood on the stairs, box cutter near the wall, 2 civilians holding compresses to wounds, 1 security guard bleeding through his sleeve. "Step back," he says, voice steady and practiced. And we do. It becomes procedural fast. Another officer arrives, then 2 paramedics in navy jackets with bright yellow reflective strips. The alarm finally cuts off, replaced by radios and clipped instructions, and the soft rustle of gauze being torn open. Leon's sleeve is cut away. The wound is deeper than I thought. Not catastrophic, but not small. One of the paramedics applies pressure with calm hands. "You're lucky," she tells him. "Missed the artery." Leon nods once, jaw tight, like luck is something he doesn't fully believe in. Elliot sits on the step with his back against the railing, arm outstretched, while Marissa hovers too close, and then forces herself to back up when the paramedic gives her a look. His cut is shallow, but long. It needs stitches. He stares at it like it's an abstract design, like if he can study it enough, it'll stop being his. I don't realize I'm shaking until Daphne puts her hands on my shoulders and says, "Breathe." I inhale too sharply, and my scraped palm stings. An officer kneels in front of Aaron, reads him his rights in a tone that's almost bored. Aaron doesn't interrupt. He just stares at the stairwell wall like he's been inconvenienced. When the officer lifts him to his feet, Aaron winces. His hip took the worst of the fall. He sways, but he doesn't fall again. As they lead him up the stairs, he glances back once. Not at me. At my phone, lying cracked on the landing where I set it down. It's a small thing, that look, but it makes my stomach twist in a way the blood didn't. The lobby fills with noise and flashing red light reflected in glass. Tenants cluster in small knots, whispering, phones out. The fire alarm has brought everyone down like a tide. Someone hands me a bottle of water. I don't remember who. Leon is loaded onto a stretcher with more protest than dignity. "I can walk," he insists. "You can," the paramedic says calmly. "You're not going to." Elliot follows on his own feet, arm wrapped thick in gauze. Marissa stays glued to his side like if she lets go, he'll evaporate. Daphne doesn't leave my side until an officer asks to speak with me. We step into a quiet corner near the mailboxes, away from the glass doors and the curious eyes. The officer is in his 30s, clean-shaven, notebook out. "Start from the beginning," he says. So I do. The stairwell, the first voicemail, the timestamps, the conference room, the alley, the smear on the ground, the call that sounded like me, the fire alarm. He doesn't interrupt much, just writes. "And you're certain he manipulated your phone account?" he asks at one point. "He said he called the carrier," I say. "He knew personal details." "Has he done anything like this before?" "He's left voicemails," I say. "He's shown up, not like this." The officer nods. "We'll request your carrier records. If there was a port out or SIM swap or unauthorized access, there'll be a trail." Trail. As if this were just footprints in wet cement. He looks at my cracked phone. "We'll need that as evidence." The thought makes me hesitate. It's ridiculous to cling to a device that just betrayed me, but it's still mine. It has photos, notes, texts with my sister, grocery lists. "You'll get it back," he says, reading the flicker on my face. Eventually, I hand it over. By the time the paramedics are done, and the officers have taken statements from everyone, including 2 tenants who witnessed the struggle, the building feels almost normal again. The fire alarm panel resets. The flashing lights stop. People drift back upstairs in quiet groups, talking in low voices. The stairwell is cordoned off with yellow tape. The smear on the concrete that scared us earlier is now joined by fresh, undeniable blood. It's darker than I expected. Daphne insists on riding with Leon to the hospital. "He was protecting us," she says simply. Marissa goes with Elliot. She doesn't look at me when she leaves. Her eyes are red and distant, like she's already replaying it frame by frame. That leaves me in the lobby with 2 officers finishing paperwork and a janitor who's mopping in slow, careful strokes around the taped area. The ordinary world presses back in. The coffee shop reopens its back door for deliveries. Someone laughs too loudly near the elevators and then stops when they realize where they are. I sit on a bench near the window and watch the street outside. Rain has started again, light, persistent. Traffic moves. A cyclist weaves between cars. A couple argues quietly under a shared umbrella. I try to imagine telling this story tomorrow, and it sounding like something that happened to a real person and not like a late-night podcast episode. An officer approaches. "He's being transported," she says. "Charges will likely include assault with a weapon, unlawful entry, harassment, possibly identity theft, depending on what we find with your account." Identity theft. It sounds so bureaucratic for something that felt so intimate. "Will he get out?" I ask. "That's up to a judge," she says honestly. "But you should consider a restraining order." I nod. My head feels heavy. At the hospital, hours later, the fluorescent lights are softer than the ones in the stairwell. Leon is in a bed behind a curtain, arm bandaged thick, IV in his hand. He looks smaller without the uniform's posture. "You pulled the alarm," he says when he sees me. "Yes." "Good," he says. "There's no drama in it, just approval." Elliot sits in a chair nearby, arms stitched and wrapped. Marissa leans against the wall, arms crossed tight over her chest. When I walk in, they all look at me at once. "You okay?" Elliot asks. I nod. "Bruised, scraped." Marissa pushes off the wall and hugs me without asking. It's not a gentle hug. It's tight and almost angry. "I thought," she starts, then stops. I know what she thought. I thought it too. Leon clears his throat. "He said a lot of things," he says. "When they were putting him in the car, I stiffen." "Like what?" "That you made him do it," Leon says flatly. "That you were dramatic, that you overreacted." The words hit harder than the box cutter. Marissa makes a sharp, disgusted sound. Elliot looks at the floor. Classic. Leon's gaze is steady. Don't let that get in your head. I don't answer. Because it's already there, a small, invasive thought. If I had answered the first voicemail, if I had called the police earlier, if I hadn't gone into the stairwell. But that path doesn't lead anywhere useful. It just loops. The next morning, I wake up in my apartment to the sound of my neighbor's shower running through the thin wall. For a few seconds, everything is normal. I reach for my phone and remember it's gone. The absence is louder than any vibration. I sit up slowly. My shoulder protests. My palm is stiff where the skin has scabbed over. There's a police evidence receipt on my nightstand, a small square of paper that feels absurdly official. I use my old tablet to log into my email. There are messages from work, from my sister, from Verizon Fraud Prevention, automatically generated, asking me to confirm recent changes to my account. There it is, an email timestamped 2 days ago. Your voicemail access PIN has been successfully reset. I never reset it. Underneath, another. Your account recovery email has been updated. Not to my email, to an address I don't recognize. My stomach tightens, but it's not panic this time. It's clarity. He didn't just manipulate time. He inserted himself into the system and let the system do the rest. I forward everything to the detective whose card is clipped to the receipt. I spend the next hour on the phone with carrier fraud support, answering questions that feel invasive but necessary. Last four of my social security number, billing zip code, mother's maiden name. We see unauthorized changes, the agent says eventually. We're reversing them. We recommend a SIM replacement and multi-factor authentication tied to a hardware key. Hardware key. Physical, tangible. I write it down. Work closes for the day. The stairwell remains taped off. A professional cleaning service comes in. They scrub the concrete until the blood is just a faint shadow. By afternoon, the office smells like disinfectant and coffee again. Elliot sends a photo to the group chat of his stitched arm, captioned, "Corporate hazard pay." Marissa replies with a string of angry emojis and a heart. Leon texts from the hospital bed, "Someone must have given him my number." Back in 2 weeks. Don't open weird doors without me. It's a joke. It almost lands. I sit at my kitchen table that evening with a replacement phone in a plain white box. When I power it on, it asks me to sign in, to trust it, to let it know who I am. I hesitate for a second longer than I used to. Then I do it. The new phone is silent. No voicemails from tomorrow. No unknown calls. Just the quiet hum of an ordinary evening. I make tea. I sit on the couch. I let the city noise filter in through the cracked window, sirens far away, a dog barking, someone laughing on the sidewalk. Almost ordinary. Before bed, I check the locks twice. Not because I don't trust myself, because I understand now how easy it is for someone else to slide into the space between systems and make you doubt your own reality. I turn off the light. In the dark, my shoulder throbs in a slow rhythm that matches my pulse. On the nightstand, the new phone lies face up. It doesn't buzz. But for a long time, I lie awake, listening anyway. That's it for this nightmare. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and turn on notifications. It really helps keep the stories alive. And don't stop here, dive into another one of our videos and keep the fear going. Welcome to Mia Horror Stories. To make it easier on your eyes, this video plays against a black screen, so you can close your eyes, get comfortable, and and let the story take over. But don't relax too much. The ending might just catch you off guard. Stay with me until the very last word. The bathroom mirror said 6:18, not the tiny clock over the sink. I didn't have one. Not my phone that was in the bedroom, face down, vibrating itself to death. The mirror itself said it, because the mirror was reflecting the bright green digits of the microwave clock behind me in the kitchen, and those digits were wrong. I blinked hard, like I could clear it the way you clear steam. The glass didn't change. In the mirror, I could see my own shoulder and the doorway, and beyond that, the slice of kitchen, microwave, stove, the top of the fridge with its dusty magnets. The microwave read 6:18, but when I turned around and looked at it directly, it read 6:41. I pivoted back to the mirror. 6:18, pivoted back to the microwave. 6:41. The numbers were steady, not flickering like a loose connection. The microwave wasn't counting up toward the real time. It just sat there, confidently wrong in two different ways depending on where I stood. I took 2 steps forward and leaned in until my breath fogged the glass. The reflection held. My eyes looked tired and slightly too bright, the way they get when I've slept in fragments. Behind me, the kitchen stayed sharp. The digits stayed wrong. For a few seconds, I did the normal things you do when something feels off, but still explainable. I checked my own attention span. I checked for glare. I checked if maybe the microwave door was reflecting something else, like the oven clock, into the mirror. But I could see the microwave face plainly in the mirror. It wasn't a trick angle. The mirror was showing me a microwave clock that didn't match the microwave clock. A laugh tried to come out and couldn't find a clean way around my throat, so it landed as a cough. That was when my phone started vibrating again, muffled through the bedroom comforter like a trapped insect. My name is Jonah Price, and I'm the kind of person who sets 3 alarms even if I have nowhere to be. I'm 33, and I moved into this house last fall because it was almost affordable, and because I liked the idea of being able to fix something with my hands instead of spending my life hunched over other people's deadlines. It's a small 2-story in Arlington, Massachusetts, close enough to the city that I can still pretend I'm part of it, far enough that the street goes quiet early. Built in the 50s, hardwood floors with thin spots, a basement that smells like cold concrete and old paint, radiators that hiss like somebody's whispering behind a door. I'd been up late again the night before, scrolling mindlessly until my eyes ached, then lying there listening to the house settle, pipes ticking, a car passing on Mass Ave, the occasional thump from the upstairs radiator. I tell people I'm not a great sleeper, like it's a quirky trait. The truth is I don't like the feeling of losing track of time. I don't like waking up and not knowing what I did with the hours. Which is why the microwave clock being 2 different times, depending on where I stood, made my skin prickle in a way I didn't want to name yet. My phone rattled again. I left the bathroom, bare feet, sticking slightly to the hallway runner, because I'd spilled coffee there 2 days ago, and cleaned it with a damp rag, like that counts as cleaning. Mirror in the hallway caught me as I passed, tall, slightly warped at the edges from age, and in it, over my shoulder, I saw the little digital clock on the thermostat glowing 5:03. I stopped. I turned around and looked at the thermostat directly. 6:41. I turned back to the mirror. 5:03. It wasn't even close. The hallway mirror showed the thermostat as if it lived in a different morning, a different day. I stood there long enough to feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. The house smelled faintly of detergent and last night's onions. The radiator on the stairs made a soft metallic click, then a long sigh of heat. "Okay," I said out loud to nobody. The sound of my own voice helped a little. "Okay, that's a thing." My phone in the bedroom went from vibrating to ringing, one of those work call tones I never bothered to change because it's supposed to make you feel urgent and guilty. I snatched it off the bed. The screen said 6:42 a.m. The caller ID said RITA Mason. I answered too quickly, because that's another flaw. I hate the feeling of someone waiting on me, even when I'm the one who's entitled to take a second. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice normal. "Jonah." Rita sounded awake in the way only certain people do, like they have a switch they flip, like sleep is just a thing they turn off. "You're up, right?" "I'm up," I said, and my eyes flicked to the bedroom mirror on the dresser without meaning to. In that mirror, over my shoulder, the phone screen glowed back at me. Only in the reflection, the time in the top corner read 6:12. My stomach did a small, careful drop, like an elevator testing its cables. "Jonah," Rita said again. "You still there?" "Yeah." I forced my gaze back to the phone itself, 6:42. I glanced at the reflection, 6:12. Direct, 6:42. Reflection, 6:12. My mouth went dry. "Yeah, sorry. I'm here." Rita Mason, 41, female, is my manager at the property management company. Sharp bob haircut, practical boots, and the kind of calm that makes you feel like you're the frantic one, even when you're not. She de-hired me mostly because I said I could patch drywall and didn't look terrified of tenants. "I need you to swing by the McKenna place on Lowell Street this morning," she said. "There's a leak they swear is coming from the walls." "That's poetic," I said, and tried to laugh like I hadn't just watched time split in half. Their definition of emergency is flexible, but the downstairs unit is making noise, and they're threatening to call the city. I could hear her moving around keys, maybe a mug on a counter. "Can you be there by 8? "Yeah," I said automatically. Then my brain tried to do time math and snagged on itself. By 8, it was 6:42. It should be easy. Shower, coffee, tools, drive. Unless it wasn't 6:42. Unless every mirror in my house was going to keep showing me a different answer until my head turned to cotton. "I can be there," I said again, more carefully. "Good," Rita's voice softened by a fraction. "You sound weird. You sick?" "No," I said, and then because lying without offering something else makes me feel naked, I added, "Just didn't sleep great." "Story of your life," she said, like it was a joke she'd earned. "Text me when you're on your way." "Will do." I hung up and stood there for a second, phone still in my hand, listening to the small silence that follows a call ending. The refrigerator clicked on downstairs. Somewhere outside, a garbage truck made its slow reverse beep, distant but steady. I turned and looked at the bedroom mirror again. In the reflection, the phone still read 6:12. Directly in my hand, it read 6:43. I opened the camera app because there's a part of me that believes the phone is the referee in any dispute. The camera showed my face, slightly warped by the wide lens, and behind me, the bedroom mirror with the phone reflected in it. In the live camera image, the phone in my hand said 6:43. In the mirror inside the camera image, it said 6:12. I turned the camera toward the hallway mirror and walked out. The hallway mirror caught the thermostat. In the camera image, the thermostat in real space said 6:43. In the mirror inside the image, it said 503. I felt a strange surge of relief and irritation at the same time. Relief because the camera saw it too, meaning this wasn't just my sleep-deprived brain. Irritation because if it wasn't in my head, it had to be in the world, and the world doesn't usually do things like this. Okay, I said again, louder. Okay, great. I did the next logical thing, which was to check another mirror. The living room had an old decorative one above the fireplace, oval, with a gold frame that looked nicer than it had any right to in this house. I walked down, stepping around a stack of unopened mail on the stairs. The floor creaked on the third step like it always did. The living room was dim, curtains half open, winter light leaking in gray and thin. The oval mirror reflected the kitchen doorway, and beyond that, the microwave clock. In the oval mirror, 7:26. I walked into the kitchen and stared straight at the microwave. 6:44. Back to the mirror. 7:26. I stood with my palms on the cool counter, breathing through my nose, trying not to let my thoughts sprint ahead into the kinds of explanations that would make me feel stupid later. Electrical glitch, maybe. The microwave clock was cheap and had been wrong before after outages. But why would it be wrong only in a mirror? A weird film on the glass, like some sort of reflective coating that refracts light. That doesn't make sense. Mirrors don't hallucinate. A prank, impossible. I lived alone. The only person with a key besides me was the previous owner's realtor, and I'd changed the locks. I'd done it myself with a YouTube video and a bruised thumb, and I remembered the satisfaction of turning the new key and feeling the bolt slide cleanly. I grabbed my laptop from the dining table and flipped it open, fingers clumsy. The Wi-Fi connected automatically. The time in the corner of the screen read 6:44 a.m. I turned the laptop toward the oval mirror above the fireplace. In the mirror, the laptop's corner time read 6:19 a.m. My mouth opened slightly, like that would help the air. I pulled the laptop back, looked at it directly. 6:44. Mirror, 6:19. This wasn't limited to one clock. It was everything with time on it. My pulse was loud in my ears now. Not panic, exactly. More like my body trying to push me into motion. Do something, change something, fix it. I walked quickly, almost a jog, back upstairs and into the bathroom. The bathroom mirror reflected the kitchen microwave through the hallway line of sight. It still said 6:18 in the reflection. I looked at my own wrist, out of habit. No watch. I'd stopped wearing one after it died, and I never replaced it because my phone existed. That decision suddenly felt like a tiny betrayal from my past self. I tried something dumb. I wiped the bathroom mirror with the hem of my t-shirt until it squeaked, leaving faint streaks. The reflection didn't change. I tried another dumb thing. I turned the bathroom light off, then on. The reflection didn't change. Then I did the thing I'd been avoiding since the first mismatch, because it meant admitting I was taking it seriously. I went downstairs to the breaker panel in the basement. The basement stairs were narrow and steep, the air cooler with each step. The smell down there was always the same: damp concrete, a hint of rust, that old sock odor of insulation. My phone flashlight made the space look harsher than it was, every spiderweb a threat, every shadow a shape. The breaker panel was on the far wall. I opened it and stared at the rows of switches like they were supposed to explain something. Nothing looked tripped. Everything was labeled in my own handwriting from the day. I moved in kitchen, living room, upstairs, basement, because I'd promised myself I'd be the kind of homeowner who knew what belonged to what. My phone buzzed. A text from Rita. Don't forget pics if there's visible damage. In my hand, 6:46 a.m. I turned because there was a small, cracked mirror down here too, an old one nailed to a stud near the workbench, probably left by the previous owner. In that basement mirror, my phone read 4:11 a.m. 4:11. I stared at it so long my eyes started to ache. The basement felt suddenly louder water in a pipe, the faint hum of something mechanical, the sound of my own breathing too fast. If it were just one mirror, I could blame the mirror. If it were just one device, I could blame the device. But it was every mirror, and it was every device with a clock, and each mirror was confident in its own version of the morning. Above me, the house made a soft, settling sound, like wood stretching. Somewhere upstairs, a radiator gave a tired little knock. I stood there with my phone flashlight shaking slightly in my hand, and the first real choice settled into place, simple, practical, and heavy. Do I shut the whole house down, flip the main breaker, kill the Wi-Fi, kill every clock, reset everything, and hope the world snaps back into one time? Or do I leave it alone, grab my tools, get in the truck, and go to work like nothing is happening? Because the longer I stare at this, the more it feels like something that will swallow my entire day, maybe more. My thumb hovered near the main switch. Upstairs, my phone buzzed again, a calendar alert trying to be helpful. I didn't move yet, not until I decided which kind of mistake I could live with. I flipped the main breaker. The house made a low, surrendering sound. The refrigerator cut off mid-hum. The basement light snapped into black. For half a second, there was that pure, unfiltered quiet you only get when electricity leaves a building. No buzz, no background current, just the dry air and your own pulse. My phone screen stayed lit in my hand. 6:47 a.m. I turned toward the basement mirror, lifting the phone flashlight so the cracked glass caught it. In the mirror, my phone read 4:12 a.m. The numbers didn't flicker when the power died. They didn't hesitate. I let out a short breath through my nose. Okay, I said softly, and this time it didn't sound reassuring. It sounded like a person inventorying options in a room that had fewer exits than he thought. If it was the house's power, it wasn't the circuits. It wasn't some electrical loop feeding into the mirrors like a bad horror movie. It also wasn't something that reset when I cut the system. I climbed the basement stairs in the gray half-light from the small ground-level window. Upstairs, the house felt hollow without its usual sounds. No fridge, no low radiator hiss, just wood creaking and my feet on the steps. I stepped into the living room and looked at the oval mirror above the fireplace. My phone in my hand, 6:48 a.m. In the mirror, 7:29 a.m. The time in the reflection had advanced by 3 minutes since I'd last checked it. Not in sync with my phone, not frozen. It was moving on its own track. Hallway mirror showed 5:06 a.m. now. The bathroom mirror showed 6:21 a.m. The basement mirror had ticked to 4:13 a.m. 4 different mirrors, 4 different timelines, all progressing forward at roughly the same speed as reality, but offset. I swallowed and felt the tightness there. This wasn't about the microwave, or the Wi-Fi, or some dumb reflection trick. The thing I hate most in the world is not knowing which clock to trust. It sounds small when you say it out loud, when you've missed something important because you misread a time, when you've stood in a hospital hallway staring at a wall clock that said 3:17 and thinking you still had a few minutes, when you've learned that the difference between 3:17 and 3:22 can be permanent. You start to build your life around synchronization. I didn't own a watch because my phone was supposed to be the authority. Now the mirrors were undermining that authority in a way that made my stomach turn. My phone buzzed. "Rita, you on your way." It was 6:49. If I left now, I'd make it to Lowell Street with time to spare. If I stayed, I could keep testing. If I stayed and something about this meant I'd already lost time, real time, I could miss the call entirely. I typed, "leaving in 5. I hesitated, then flipped the main breaker back on. The house rebooted in stages. The refrigerator kicked in. The thermostat blinked and reset. The microwave clock flashed 12:00 like it had no memory of anything. That was almost funny. I stared at the microwave directly. 12:00. In the oval mirror, it showed 7:31 a.m. I didn't reset it. I grabbed my tool bag from the hall closet and slung it over my shoulder. The metal clanked against the hammerhead inside. The sound was sharp, grounding. I passed the hallway mirror. It showed 5:09 a.m. now. "Not today," I muttered. Outside, the air had that brittle late winter edge. The sky was pale, undecided. A couple houses down, Mrs. Haverson was dragging her trash bin to the curb in slow, deliberate steps, her slippers scraping on concrete. The truck started on the first try. The dashboard clock read 6:53 a.m. I backed out, the tires crunching lightly over old salt. In the rearview mirror, the dashboard clock read 6:18 a.m. I froze. The truck idled, low and steady. My breath fogged the windshield in a faint oval. Directly on the dashboard, 6:53. In the rearview mirror, 6:18. I leaned sideways, squinting as if angle would fix it. It didn't. The rearview mirror wasn't connected to the house. It wasn't old. It wasn't decorative. It was just a mirror. The time in it was wrong. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Come on," I said, but it wasn't to the truck. The side mirrors didn't show the dashboard clock clearly enough to check. I lifted my phone and angled it so the screen reflected in the rearview mirror. Phone in my hand, 6:54. Phone in the mirror, 6:19. The offset was consistent, 35 minutes behind. The same offset as the bathroom mirror had been. I sat there, engine running, heart knocking once too hard against my ribs. The phenomenon wasn't contained to the house. It followed reflective surfaces, which meant it would follow me. My phone buzzed again. "Rita," I typed back, "on the road." I pulled out onto the street. The drive to Lowell Street was only 10 minutes if traffic cooperated. I kept my eyes forward, not wanting to glance at the rearview again, but I did. Of course I did. Each time I looked, the rearview clock ticked forward normally, but stayed 35 minutes behind the real dashboard time. At a red light on Mass Ave, I risked another check. Dashboard, 6:59. Rearview reflection, 6:24. The same gap. A horn blared behind me. The light had turned green. "Yeah," I muttered, pressing the gas. By the time I turned onto Lowell Street, my mouth felt dry, like I'd been breathing through it without realizing. The McKenna duplex was a narrow, gray two-family with sagging gutters and a yard that had given up trying. A red sedan was parked crooked in the driveway. I killed the engine. Dashboard, 7:03 a.m. Rearview mirror, 6:28 a.m. I checked my phone. 7:03 a.m. In the rearview reflection, 6:28 a.m. The offset had increased by 1 minute. 35 minutes had become 35 minutes still. I stared at it long enough that a knock on my window made me jump. A man stood there, mid-40s, thinning hair, plaid shirt half tucked. He looked irritated and tired in equal measure. I rolled the window down. "You the maintenance guy?" he asked. "Yeah, Jonah. I'm Patrick McKenna, 45, male, upstairs unit." He jerked a thumb toward the door. "It's getting worse." Behind him, in the doorway, a woman with her hair pulled back tight crossed her arms. "That's Alina McKenna, 42, female," Patrick said without turning. "My wife." Alina didn't wave. She just said, "The wall's wet again." Her voice had that thin edge people get when they've already repeated something too many times. "Okay," I said, grabbing my tool bag. "Show me." Inside, the house smelled like damp drywall and lemon cleaner layered on top of it. The living room ceiling had a faint yellow bloom spreading from one corner, paint puckering. "That wasn't there yesterday," Patrick said, standing too close to me. "It's coming from nowhere. There's no pipe above it." "There's always a pipe somewhere," I said, crouching. The drywall felt soft when I pressed it lightly with my knuckle, not soaked, but wrong. Alina stood in the hallway with her phone in her hand. The screen glowed. "What time is it?" she asked suddenly. I looked up at her. 7:04, I said automatically. She frowned at her phone. "It says 6:29. My stomach tightened. "Is your phone on automatic time?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Yeah," she said. "Why?" I stepped closer. Her phone read 6:29 a.m. I pulled out mine. 7:04 a.m. Patrick leaned in. "What's that about?" Alina shook her phone once, like it might wake up. "It was fine yesterday," I swallowed. "Can I see your microwave?" They both blinked at me. Patrick said, "Just trust me." The kitchen microwave above their stove glowed 7:04 a.m. Alina looked at her phone again. "Mine still says 6:29. Is your phone on Wi-Fi?" I asked. "Yeah, why are you asking that?" "Because if this was some network time protocol glitch, it could mess with alarms, with timers, with anything tied to scheduled events. Because if her phone thought it was 6:29 and it was actually 7:04, she could miss a medication window, school bus, a call, because I'd just driven here with a mirror telling me I was 35 minutes behind. Patrick crossed his arms. "Look, is this about the leak or not?" I forced myself back to the ceiling. "Right, leak." I pressed harder against the drywall and felt it give, not collapse, but close. "You've run the shower upstairs?" I asked. "Yeah." "Did it get worse after?" Patrick hesitated. "I don't know," Alina said. "We can run it now." "Do that," I said. She disappeared down the hall. A minute later, water thundered through pipes overhead. I stood beneath the stain, watching. A dark line formed, slow and deliberate, like a vein filling. "There," Patrick said. "See?" "Yeah," my phone buzzed. "Rita, you there?" 7:07 a.m. In the microwave reflection behind me, I could see a faint image of my phone screen in the glass door. In that reflection, the time read 6:32 a.m. 35 minutes behind. My chest felt tight again. The water upstairs cut off abruptly. Alina reappeared. "It's dripping in the bathroom too." "Okay," I said. "I'm going to cut into this." Patrick made a noise that sounded like protest, but I'd already pulled the small drywall saw from my bag. "Wait," Alina said suddenly. "What if it's electrical?" "It's not," I said, more confidently than I felt. There aren't lines running through this section. I pushed the saw into the soft patch. The drywall gave way with a gritty crunch. Thin stream of water spilled out immediately, splashing onto the hardwood. Patrick swore. I widened the hole carefully, trying not to make it worse. Inside, I could see the copper line old, slightly corroded, beating water steadily at a joint. "It's the shower line," I said. "Fittings loose or cracked." "Can you fix it?" Alina asked. "Yeah," I said, "but I need to shut off the main." Patrick pointed toward the basement door. "It's down there." I hesitated for just a second too long. "What?" Patrick said. "Nothing," I said. "Show me." The basement in the McKenna house was brighter than mine. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The concrete floor was dry, except for a faint trail of damp near one wall. The main water valve was against the far side. I crouched to turn it. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. An instinct made me glance at the reflection in the polished metal of the water heater beside me. In that curved reflection, my phone read 5:58 a.m. Not 6:32. Not 6:28. 5:58. A new offset. My hand froze on the valve. "Problem?" Patrick asked from the top of the stairs. I looked directly at my phone. 7:11 a.m. In the water heater reflection, 5:58 a.m. 73 minutes behind. The offsets were changing, not just by mirror, but by location. If the reflection time was tied to where I was, if certain places were behind, my brain tried to assemble a pattern and failed. I turned the valve anyway. Water thudded through the pipes and then stopped. "Okay," I called, "it's off." As I stood, my phone vibrated hard. "Unknown number," I answered without thinking. "Hello," a pause. Then a woman's voice, clipped and official. "Is this Jonah Price?" "Yeah, this is Arlington Police Department dispatch. We have a report of a possible gas smell at your residence. A neighbor called it in about 10 minutes ago." "Are you home?" My throat tightened. "No," I said. "I'm at a job on Lowell Street." "Okay. We have a unit en route, and the fire department as well. Do you have anyone else with access to the property?" "No," I said automatically. Then I thought of the mirrors, the breaker, the refrigerator cutting out. "Sir," she prompted. "No," I repeated. "No one else." "Understood. We'll contact you with an update." The line clicked dead. Patrick was watching me now, arms folded. "Everything okay?" I didn't answer right away, because in the water heater's curved metal, my phone reflection still read 5:58 a.m. If that time was real for that surface, then according to that reflection, the police had just called me at 5:58 a.m. 10 minutes after a neighbor reported a gas smell at my house. 10 minutes after, but my phone said 7:12, which meant either the call log was lying, or whatever was happening with reflective time wasn't just visual anymore. Upstairs, a faint thud echoed through the McKenna house. Maybe Alina moving furniture, maybe something settling. Patrick cleared his throat. "You going to fix that pipe or what?" I looked at him, at the basement stairs, at the fluorescent light humming overhead. If there was actually a gas issue at my place, and I stayed here, I'd be the idiot who ignored it. If I ran back and abandoned this job mid-repair, Rita would lose her mind, and the McKennas would call the city. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "We're inside your house." No punctuation, no name. My stomach dropped in a way that had nothing to do with mirrors. I stared at the message. Patrick took a step down the stairs. "What's going on?" I looked up at him slowly. "I need to make a call," I said. And for the first time that morning, I wasn't sure which clock was counting down. Patrick was still watching me from the stairs when I stepped aside and called the police dispatcher back. My hand felt slick against the phone. I wiped it on my jeans without looking at him. Arlington Dispatch, the same woman answered. This is Jonah Price. You just called me about a gas smell at my house. Yes, sir. Fire is on scene. On scene. My voice came out sharper than I meant. Already. They arrived about 2 minutes ago. 2 minutes ago. I pulled the phone from my ear and glanced at the time. 7:14 a.m. In the curved metal of the water heater beside me, the reflection read 6:01 a.m. If that offset meant anything, it meant the fire department was on scene at 6:01, which meant the report might have come in earlier than the dispatcher had said, or it meant nothing. I couldn't afford to build theories on top of reflections. Sir, the dispatcher prompted. I need to speak to whoever's there, I said. One moment. I could hear radio chatter through the line. A male voice came on, clipped and brisk. This is Lieutenant Harris with Arlington Fire. You the homeowner? Yeah, we're not detecting active gas levels right now, he said. Your neighbor reported smelling something metallic near the back of the house. We're checking the basement. My knees felt weak for a second. Can you put me on speaker while you're in there? I asked. A pause. That's not standard, he said. Please, please. Another pause, then, all right. There was a faint shift of sound, like fabric brushing a microphone. I heard footsteps on wooden stairs, the creak of my basement steps. I knew that sound. I could count them without seeing. 1, 2, 3. The fourth step had a longer groan. I gripped the edge of the McKenna water heater and felt cold metal under my fingers. Basement looks clear, Harris said to someone else. Breaker panels intact. I swallowed. Is anything off? He didn't answer immediately. I heard him move across the concrete. Your refrigerator's not running, he said finally. I turned the breaker off earlier, I said, then back on. It's on now, he said. Breaker's up. The refrigerator should have restarted. Unless, check the outlet, I said quickly. Please. There was a scrape, then silence. Outlet's dead, he said. That's strange. I felt Patrick's eyes on me. Anything else? I asked. Negative readings so far. We'll stay a few more minutes. Thank you, I said, and ended the call. Patrick came down the last few steps. Is your house blowing up? He asked. No, I said automatically. Probably just a bad outlet. He didn't look convinced. I stared at the water heater's reflection again. 6:03 a.m. Direct time, 7:16 a.m. The offset in this basement was now 73 minutes. 73 minutes behind. The McKenna house was behind my house by a different amount. The truck was 35 minutes behind. The water heater was 73. The hallway mirror in my house had been 98. If each reflective surface was anchored to different earlier time, I shut that thought down hard. I still had a pipe to fix. Okay, I said, forcing my voice steady. Water's off. I'll replace the fitting. We went back upstairs. Alina hovered in the kitchen doorway, arms wrapped around herself. Everything okay? She asked. Fine, I said. Probably a loose connection. She frowned at my face. You look pale. I didn't sleep. I crouched under the hole I'd cut in the ceiling. Water still dripped occasionally from the exposed copper joint. I laid out my tools carefully on the hardwood wrench, small pipe cutter, replacement coupling from the truck. My hands were not steady. Patrick stood too close again. Can you hurry? He asked. We both have to leave for work. I glanced at the microwave above the stove. Direct, 7:18 a.m. In the shiny chrome trim around the microwave door, my reflection showed my phone screen glowing faintly in my pocket. In that reflection, it read 6:43 a.m. The offset here was 35 minutes, same as the truck, which meant the McKenna kitchen was aligned with my truck mirror. The basement had been different. Why? I tightened the wrench around the joint and felt it resist. I twisted harder. The pipe gave with a small metallic pop and a fresh spurt of water. "Jesus," Patrick said. "It's fine," I muttered, even as cold water splashed across my knuckles. I worked quickly, too quickly. The pipe cutter slipped and nicked my left thumb. It wasn't deep, but blood welled fast, mixing with water and dripping onto the floor. "Hold on," Alina said, stepping forward with paper towels. "I'm good," I said through my teeth. My pulse was too fast, my breathing shallow. The cut stung, sharp and insistent, anchoring me back to something simple: skin, metal, pressure. I replaced the damaged fitting and tightened it properly this time. Slow, deliberate. "Okay," I said, "turn the water back on." Patrick went downstairs. Alina handed me the paper towels. "You sure you're okay?" "Yeah, you seemed freaked out down there." I almost laughed. "Long morning," I said. The pipes thudded as water rushed back in. We waited, no drip, no bead forming on the joint. "Looks good," I said. Patrick came back up. "That it, for now," I said. "Keep an eye on it." He nodded, already turning toward the stairs. Alina lingered. "My phone's still off," she said quietly. "It says 6:48. Mine read 7:23 a.m. I didn't look at the microwave. "Restart it," I said, "or toggle airplane mode." She did. The screen went black, then bright again. Now it read 7:23 a.m. She blinked. "That's weird." "It probably lost sync," I said. Misdirection came a minute later. As I packed my tools, a loud metallic bang echoed through the house, sharp, explosive. Alina gasped. Patrick shouted from the hallway, "What the hell was that?" My heart slammed into my throat. Gas, pressure, something ruptured. I bolted toward the sound, slipping slightly on the damp floor. The noise had come from the front of the house. We all froze in the living room. Another bang. Then a rolling, hollow rattle. Patrick swore and yanked the front door open. A garbage truck idled at the curb. Hydraulic arm had just dropped a metal bin too hard onto the pavement. The lid clanged again as it bounced. Alina let out a shaky breath. "Jesus," she muttered. I laughed once, brittle. "Trash day," I said. My body didn't get the memo that it was harmless. My hands still trembled. Outside, the sky had brightened to pale blue. I checked my phone. 7:26 a.m. No new texts. I stepped out onto the McKenna porch and dialed the fire lieutenant back. "Harris, any updates?" I asked. "Negative gas readings. But we've got an electrician looking at your outlet. Refrigerator line's dead, but the breaker's not tripped." My stomach tightened. So what's that mean? Could be a loose neutral, could be corrosion. Hard to say without opening it up. "Is anyone inside?" I asked. We cleared the basement. No signs of forced entry. What about upstairs? Front door was locked when we arrived. My pulse skipped. "Locked?" "Yes, sir. I locked it when I left." The text. "We're inside your house. If it was a prank, they'd have to know I was gone. Know I was at Lowell Street. Know about the fire call." I looked back through the McKenna window at the microwave clock. Direct, 7:27 a.m. In the glass reflection, faintly, my phone screen showed 6:52 a.m. The offset here hadn't changed, but the water heater basement had been different, which meant I turned sharply and jogged back inside. "Patrick," I said, "can I borrow your car keys?" He blinked. "Why?" "Need to test something." "That's not an answer. Please." He hesitated, then handed them over. Outside, I stood beside his red sedan and turned the ignition without starting the engine, just enough to power the dashboard. The clock lit up, 7:28 a.m. I leaned into the driver's seat and looked at it in the rearview mirror. In the mirror, it read 6:53 a.m. 35 minutes behind. Same as my truck. Same as the McKenna kitchen chrome. The offset followed me, not the house. The realization hit so clean it almost hurt. I straightened slowly. If reflective surfaces were showing different times based on proximity to me, if the offsets shifted when I moved, then whatever this was, it wasn't anchored to buildings. It was anchored to me. My phone buzzed in my hand. Unknown number again. "You left the basement light on." My lungs forgot how to work. I stared at the message. At my house, the basement light was on a pull chain near the stairs. I turned the main breaker off earlier, then back on. I hadn't gone back down after that. "Jonah," Alina called from the porch. I looked up at her. "Yeah," I said, but my voice sounded thin. "You okay?" "No," I said, and this time I didn't bother lying. I dialed Rita instead of the police. She answered on the second ring. "You done?" she asked. "I need you to go to my house," I said. "What? Right now?" There was a beat of silence. "Jonah, I'm not your babysitter." I know. But there's fire and police there already. They said the outlet's dead. Please, just tell me what you see." She exhaled sharply. "Fine, I'm 10 minutes away. Call me when you're there." I ended the call and felt suddenly lightheaded. Patrick was standing at the foot of the porch now. "You're freaking my wife out," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. You need to either leave or explain what's happening." I opened my mouth and realized I had no version of this that wouldn't sound unhinged. "I think someone might be messing with my house," I said finally. His eyes sharpened. "You want me to come with you?" I hesitated. If someone was inside, if the text was real, if the offsets meant anything beyond reflection, I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, I do." He turned and grabbed his jacket without another word. Alina stepped back, confusion and worry on her face. "Where are you going?" she asked. "His place," Patrick said, "just in case." "In case of what?" Neither of us answered. We were already moving toward the car. My phone buzzed again as I slid into the passenger seat. Another text. Wrong time. Patrick started the engine. Dashboard, 7:32 a.m. Rearview reflection, 6:57 a.m. 35 minutes behind. As we pulled away from Lowell Street, I realized something that made my stomach twist harder than any reflection had all morning. If the text sender was inside my house, if the fire department had cleared it and found nothing, if the outlet was dead and the refrigerator wasn't running, and if the offsets were increasing, then whatever was counting down in those mirrors might not be behind. It might be ahead. My phone rang. "Rita," I answered. Her breathing was fast. "I'm at your house," she said, "and the front door's open." Patrick's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I locked it," I whispered. "I know," she said. There was a pause. "Jonah," she said slowly, "there's someone standing in your living room." The line went dead. Patrick slammed the gas. There was no turning back now. Patrick drove like he was late to his own trial. I kept my phone in my lap, screen bright, thumb hovering over 911. The roads between Lowell Street and my place are familiar enough that my body should have relaxed into them, past the Dunkin', on Mass Ave, the small strip of storefronts. the turn that cuts behind the elementary school, but my muscles stayed locked, as if I could brace against whatever waited in my living room. Rita's not, she's not the dramatic type, I said, more to myself than to him. Patrick didn't look over. No, we hit a light. It turned green. The car behind us honked. Patrick went on green like he hadn't heard it. My phone time, 7:38 a.m. In Patrick's rear view, the ghosted overlay of the dashcam mirror, something I'd never really noticed before, showed a faint timestamp in one corner. I blinked, not the dashboard clock. A timestamp. It sat there, crisp and indifferent, while the rest of the mirror still showed a normal reflection. Two images at once, the street behind us, and a thin, digital time that didn't belong there. Patrick, I said, voice tight, is your rear view one of those camera mirrors? His jaw flexed. Yeah, came with the car. Why? Do you ever see the little time in the corner? What time? I leaned closer. The tiny digits flickered slightly as we hit a bump. It wasn't a reflection. It was an overlay. It's showing 6:58, I said. Patrick glanced up at it, then back to the road. That's the dashcam feed. It's always on, always recording, always time-stamped. 35 minutes behind my phone. The pieces didn't click into a neat answer, but something shifted. The problem wasn't time itself. It was time as displayed, mediated through devices, and glass, and feeds, and overlays. And someone had been inside my house long enough to know about my basement light. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Hurry, he's going downstairs. I stared at the words until they blurred. He, Patrick said, without me having to explain. Yeah, call 911, he said. I will, I said, and didn't. Because the last time I called something official into my life years ago, that hospital hallway time had turned procedural. People had spoken to me in calm tones, while the worst thing in my world happened on schedule. I hated that part of myself in that moment, the part that thought it could outsmart a disaster by staying in control. But my thumb still hesitated. We turned onto my street. 2 fire department vehicles sat at the curb in front of my house, lights off now. A police cruiser was parked half on the sidewalk. My front door was open, just, as Rita said, wide enough to show a slice of my entryway rug. Rita stood on my lawn in a heavy coat, hair windblown, phone pressed to her ear. She looked angry and scared in a way I'd never seen on her. Patrick parked crooked and jumped out before the engine fully died. I got out and immediately tasted something sharp in the air, cold exhaust, maybe, or that metallic tang you get near damp concrete. It wasn't an obvious gas smell. It was subtler than that, which somehow made it worse. Rita spotted me and strode over, heels sinking slightly into the thawing ground. You didn't tell me someone was inside, she hissed. I didn't know, I said. My voice sounded too small. A police officer stood near the porch, hand resting casually on his belt. He had that posture of someone trying to look relaxed while staying ready. Jonah Price, he asked. Yeah, Officer Kendall, he said, quick nod. Fire cleared a possible odor call. Door was open when they arrived. We did a sweep of the first floor. No one found. We're waiting for you before we do anything else. My skin went tight. Rita's mouth opened. He was there. Officer Kendall turned to her. Ma'am, I saw him, Rita snapped. Standing in the living room, a man. He looked at me, then he moved out of sight. Kendall's expression didn't change much, but his eyes sharpened. You're sure? Yes. And then the line dropped, I said, hearing my own words like they belonged to someone else. Rita nodded once hard. Kendall looked at me. Do you own any firearms? No. Any roommates? No. You changed the locks when you moved in." "Yes," I said too fast. "I did it myself." Kendall held my gaze a second longer, then nodded toward the open door. "All right," he said. "You're going to stay behind me, both of you," Patrick muttered, finally, like he'd been waiting to hear an adult take charge. We went up the porch steps. My front door hung open, chain lock dangling uselessly. The inside air was cooler than it should have been, as if the house had held its breath. The entryway looked normal. My shoes lined up badly by the wall. Mail on the little table. Nothing overturned. Then we stepped into the living room, and my stomach lurched. The oval mirror above the fireplace wasn't showing the living room. It was showing the living room earlier. In the mirror, the curtains were drawn a little more. The light was dimmer, more gray. And on my couch, there was a man sitting with his head in his hands, elbows on his knees. In the actual room, the couch was empty. Rita sucked in a breath. Patrick swore under his breath. Officer Kendall lifted his flashlight and swept it across the room, the beam cutting through dust motes. The couch cushions looked undisturbed. The mirror still showed the man. He shifted, like the feed was live. Then he stood up in the mirror and walked out of frame, moving toward where the hallway would be. Not in reality, in the mirror. "Jonah," Rita said, very softly. "What is that?" My mouth went dry. My eyes locked on the mirror like it was a hole in the wall. "Not a mirror," I whispered. Kendall's flashlight snapped to the oval frame. He moved closer, angled to look behind it. "Back up," he said to us, and then he pressed his gloved hand against the glass. It didn't feel like a mirror. Not quite. It had that flat, colder slickness of a screen. He tapped it. The sound was wrong, dull, like tapping a monitor. Kendall looked at me. "Did you install this?" "No," I said, voice rising. It's just been there." He set his flashlight beam directly onto the glass. The reflection didn't flare the way it should. The image held steady. A screen, showing my living room at a different time. That's why the clocks were different in reflections. They weren't reflections. They were delayed feeds, each with its own timestamp, its own drift, its own time. My breath came in shallow pulls. "Basement," I said suddenly. "Check the basement." Kendall nodded once and moved toward the hall. The hallway, mirror tall, old, showed the thermostat glowing a time that didn't match. But now I could see it more clearly. There was a tiny timestamp burned into the lower corner of the image. Small white digits I'd mistaken as a clock reflection before. I stepped closer and saw the grain, the slight compression artifacts, the way the image softened at the edges. Video. Not magic, not time bending, just cameras. And delay. My skin crawled anyway, because none of that answered the bigger question. Who had been watching me, and from where? Kendall reached the basement door and paused. He looked back at us. "Stay here," he said to Rita. Rita ignored him and took one step forward. "I'm not staying alone in your hallway." Kendall swore quietly and motioned for Patrick to keep back. Patrick didn't listen either. We went down together, which was stupid, but fear makes a group sticky. It makes you move like a herd. The basement smelled like it always did, damp concrete and old paint. Only now there was a faint warmth under it, like electronics running. Kendall's flashlight swept across the workbench. The small, cracked mirror on the stud wasn't showing the basement as it was. It showed the basement with the basement light on brighter and my breaker panel door open. And there, in the feed, someone's hands gloved were moving inside the panel. "Stop," Kendall barked and sprinted forward. He yanked the mirror off the stud with a hard pull. The glass panel came away too easily, and the mirror image vanished into black, leaving behind a shallow cavity in the wall. A warm puff of air came out. Inside was a mess of cables, and a small black box mounted to a stud like a DVR with blinking lights. Next to it, a router I didn't recognize, a battery backup, a coil of thin wire disappearing upward into the wall. My brain tried to recoil from it all, like seeing insects under a rock. "This is in your house," Rita said, voice tight with disbelief. I started, and then stopped, because it didn't matter whether I'd meant to. It had been here. It had been running. Kendall spoke into his radio, short and fast. "We have a concealed equipment cavity in the basement. Possible illegal surveillance setup. Request backup." Patrick leaned in a fraction. "So the mirror thing is cameras," I said. My throat felt raw. "They're screens." Kendall pointed his flashlight up where the thin wire ran. "Jonah, where does that go?" "Up," I said stupidly. The wire disappeared between studs toward the first floor, toward the living room, toward every place that had a mirror. Kendall's jaw tightened. "Someone has been in your walls." The thought made my stomach flip. A thump sounded overhead, not the normal house settling thump. This was heavier, purposeful. Rita grabbed my sleeve. "That's him." Patrick's shoulders squared. He looked ready to fight a man, which is a comforting lie until you watch a man actually fight. Kendall motioned us back, but it was too late. The basement door at the top of the stairs creaked. A silhouette filled it. A man, average height, hood up, something in his hand that caught the flashlight beam and threw it back sharp. Kendall raised his weapon, voice loud and flat. "Police, show me your hands." The man froze for a half-second, like he'd been caught mid-thought. Then he moved. He didn't charge down the stairs. He didn't do anything cinematic. He threw something small and dark down toward us. It clattered on concrete and hissed. A harsh chemical smell hit my nose instantly, like burnt plastic and pepper. Smoke, not thick, but enough to sting. Kendall swore and backed, blinking hard. "Back, back." My eyes flooded. My throat seized. Rita coughed once and doubled slightly, hand over her mouth. Patrick grabbed my shoulder and pulled me sideways as the smoke spread low and fast, curling along the floor. The man turned and ran. Upstairs. Kendall pushed past us, forcing his way up through the sting, weapons still raised. I stumbled against the workbench, knocking my tool bag. Metal clanged. The sound felt unreal, too loud. My thumb, still bandaged from the pipe, throbbed. Rita was gagging now, eyes streaming. "Jonah, I've got you," Patrick said, voice rough, and he guided her toward the basement window, fumbling at the latch with fingers that looked suddenly clumsy. The smoke wasn't going to kill us. It wasn't a grenade. It was something cheap and nasty, some kind of irritant smoke canister, like the kind you can buy online, legal in some places, used for airsoft or self-defense. But in a basement, it did its job. It made you stop thinking. It made you panic. Upstairs, Kendall shouted. A crash followed, wood on wood, then glass, a door slamming. I wiped my eyes and tried to breathe through my shirt, the way you do around a campfire. My lungs burned anyway. Patrick got the window open. Cold air poured in, and the smoke thinned slightly. Kendall's voice echoed from above, strained. "Stop, stop." Then another crash. Then a sharp yelp of pain, not Kendall S. Another man S. I forced myself up the stairs, half blind. The living room was chaos. The oval mirror above the fireplace was cracked now, image flickering behind spiderweb fractures. A section of drywall near the hallway was torn open, wires dangling like exposed veins. Kendall was on the floor near the front door, one knee down, grappling. The hooded man had a screwdriver in his hand. Not a knife, not a gun. A screwdriver, common, ugly, efficient. He slashed at Kendall's arm with it, wild and desperate. Kendall grunted, twisting, trying to control the wrist. Patrick barreled in behind me and did what people always think they'll do. He grabbed the attacker from behind, wrapping his arms around the man's chest. It almost worked. For a second, the attacker's arm jerked back, screwdriver wobbling. Then the attacker stomped backward hard, slamming Patrick into the doorframe. Patrick made a sound that wasn't a word. Kendall's grip slipped. The attacker wriggled free like a rat, eyes wide, face flushed with exertion, and bolted toward the kitchen. I moved without deciding. I cut across the living room and grabbed the attacker's sleeve as he passed. The fabric tore in my hand. He swung the screwdriver at me. I jerked back, too late. The tip grazed my forearm, a hot line of pain, not deep, but enough to make my hand go numb for a second. I stumbled into the hallway table, mail flying. The attacker didn't slow. He ran into the kitchen, toward the back door, toward the basement stairs. He knew the house better than I did. Kendall pushed up and ran after him, shouting into his radio. Suspect inside. Back exit. Rita appeared in the hall, eyes red, coughing. Jonah, your arm, it's fine, I lied, staring at the thin line of blood darkening my sleeve. In the kitchen, the attacker yanked open the basement door and vanished down. He wasn't escaping through the back. He was going for his equipment, going to destroy evidence, or grab something, or both. Kendall hit the basement door a second later and went down fast. Patrick limped after, one hand pressed hard to his ribs. I followed anyway, because the trap had already tightened around my life, and I couldn't stand the idea of him going down there alone. The basement air still stung, but it was clearer now. The attacker was at the wall cavity, ripping cables free with frantic tugs. I saw, in a flash, how it worked. Tiny cameras hidden behind vent grills, behind outlet plates, behind the mirror frames. Feeds routed down here, delayed and stamped, then pushed back up to those screen mirrors. So the house itself became a confusing loop, proof, misdirection, control. A way to make someone doubt their senses while you lived in their blind spots. Kendall shouted again. On the ground. Now, the attacker whirled, screwdriver raised. Patrick stepped forward, still grimacing, and swung Jonah's own heavy pipe wrench, my wrench, from my bag like he'd picked it up without thinking. The wrench connected with the attacker's forearm with a sickening thud. The screwdriver clattered to the floor. The attacker screamed. It wasn't a horror scream. It was a real one. Pain and surprise and rage. Kendall lunged and pinned him, forcing him down onto the concrete. The attacker thrashed, spitting words that didn't form a coherent sentence. Something about my footage, something about wrong time, something about you don't get to take it. Kendall cuffed him with quick, practiced movements. And then, in the sudden lull, I heard Patrick breathing ragged, wet, too fast. He leaned against the basement wall and slid down, face gray. Patrick, I said, kneeling. Hey, look at me. He tried to speak and instead hissed through his teeth. Rita stumbled down the stairs behind us, stopped short at the sight of the man cuffed on the floor, the torn open wall, the blinking equipment. Oh my God, she whispered. Patrick pressed his hand harder to his side. I think he cracked something. Kendall looked up, eyes hard but focused. EMS is coming. Stay with him. I pressed my palm against Patrick's jacket near his ribs, careful. I didn't push. I didn't poke. I just held pressure the way you do when you don't know what else to do. My own forearm burned. Blood ran down toward my wrist. The attacker lay on the concrete, breathing hard. Hood slipped back enough to show a pale scalp and sweat-dark hair. He looked younger than I expected. Late 20s, maybe. Not a mastermind. Not a ghost. Just a man who'd crawled into the infrastructure of someone else's life and called it his. Kendall stood, radio crackling at his shoulder, and kicked the screwdriver away. I stared at the shattered mirror feed still blinking in the wall cavity. The screen was black now where Kendall had torn the panel, but the equipment lights kept pulsing, oblivious. The microwave upstairs beeped weakly, resetting itself again, like it didn't understand why it kept losing the plot. I thought of all the mornings I'd walked past those mirrors, half asleep, trusting what I saw. All the nights I'd sat on my couch thinking I was alone. Rita crouched beside me, voice shaking despite her attempt at control. Jonah, how long has that been there? I opened my mouth. No sound came out at first. Then I said the only honest thing I had left. I don't know. Kendall glanced at the wall, then at me, then at the cuffed man. This is going to be a long day, he said. Outside, sirens rose and fell closer. Patrick squeezed his eyes shut, sweat on his forehead, and let out a shaky breath that sounded like surrender. The central threat was pinned on my basement floor, bleeding from his arm, cuffed, real. But the damage he'd done, what he'd turned my house into, wasn't going to uncurl just because he couldn't run anymore. The mirrors were still on the walls upstairs, and I already knew I would never look into one again without wondering what part of my life it was replaying for someone else. The ambulance lights didn't flash inside my house, but they painted my front windows anyway red, then white, then red again, like someone outside was trying to get my attention with a slow, cruel wink. By the time the EMTs came down into the basement, the smoke smell had thinned into something you could almost pretend was just old house. The intruder sat cuffed on the concrete with his back to the wall cavity, head lowered, sweat drying to a dull sheen on his scalp. Officer Kendall stood a few feet away, hands still shaking slightly when he thought no one was looking. Patrick was on the floor, propped against the wall, breathing shallow. His face had gone pale in a way that didn't feel theatrical or temporary. I'm okay, he said the second a medic crouched near him, which is what people say when they are not okay. The medic didn't argue. She just asked name and date of birth and watched his eyes while she did. Patrick answered, but his voice hitched at the end. He tried to laugh it off and couldn't. The other medic had me sit on the basement stairs, my back against the railing. He peeled back the makeshift wrap on my forearm and made a little sound like he was trying not to react. It's not deep, I said. He gave me a look that said, you don't get to decide that. He irrigated the wound with saline that felt like ice and fire at once. He asked about tetanus. I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a shot, which should have been embarrassing, but my brain felt like it was running on a stripped gear. Upstairs, I could hear boots on hardwood and the steady murmur of radios. More police, someone from fire again, an electrician with a tool belt. People moving through my rooms with the casual confidence of professionals stepping into other people's private lives. Rita stayed close, but not touching. She stood in the corner of the basement, arms folded tight, eyes red, and fixed on the torn open wall cavity like if she stared long enough, she could make it explain itself. "What's his name?" she asked Officer Kendall. Kendall hesitated. "We'll confirm at the station." The intruder didn't look up. The medic finished bandaging my arm with a neat wrap, then pressed 2 fingers to my wrist and watched a timer on his watch. I hated him for having a watch. I hated him for being right to have one. "Your pulse is high," he said calmly. "Any chest pain? Shortness of breath?" "No," I lied again, even though my breathing still felt shallow and too fast. He didn't push. He just kept his tone even, which was almost worse than pushing. "You're going to feel it later." Patrick tried to stand and immediately sat back down, teeth clenched. "Rib," he muttered. "Likely fracture," the medic said. "Or at least a contusion. We're taking you in." Patrick looked toward the stairs as if he could see Alina through the floorboards. "My wife, she's upstairs," Rita said quickly. "I texted her. She's coming." Patrick's eyes flicked to hers. "You did?" "I did," she said, voice rough. "Stop trying to manage everything." Patrick swallowed and looked away, jaw tight. It wasn't gratitude exactly. It was surrender. Officer Kendall got a call on his radio and walked a few steps away. I watched him speak into it, his voice low and controlled now that the fight was over. Procedure. Paperwork. The world's way of pretending chaos can be filed. The intruder finally lifted his head, just slightly, enough that I could see his eyes. They weren't wild anymore. They were annoyed, like we'd interrupted something important. He looked at me and then, deliberately, at the wall cavity. And then he smiled, small, mean, like a private joke. My stomach clenched. "Why?" I asked him before I could stop myself. Kendall snapped his head toward me. "Don't engage." But the intruder's smile widened, and he said softly, "Wrong time." That was it. 2 words, like he'd only ever spoken in that little phrase book he'd built for himself. Kendall stepped between us. "That's enough." The intruder's gaze slid past Kendall's shoulder, toward the basement mirror panel Kendall had ripped away. The black box and cables still blinked in their little nest like they were alive. And he looked back at me with the same small smile, and I understood something that made my skin crawl. He didn't see this as a break-in. He saw it as a system, a routine, a habit, something he'd been doing long enough that he felt entitled to it. The hospital was boring in the way hospitals are boring when no one is actively dying. Fluorescent lights, vinyl chairs, a television in the corner playing a morning show with the sound off, the smell of sanitizer and old coffee. Patrick got taken back first. They made him change into a gown that didn't close all the way, and he muttered under his breath about insurance. "And this is going to ruin my week." Alina arrived 15 minutes later and burst into the waiting area like she was walking into a fire. She saw Patrick's jacket on the chair and went straight to it, gripping it like it had answers. Rita stood when she arrived. "He's getting checked. Probably a rib fracture." Alina's eyes flicked to my arm. "What happened to you?" she asked. "Just a scratch," I said. She stared at the bandage like she didn't believe in the concept of just. "Patrick S. okay," she pressed. "As okay as someone can be after tackling a guy with a screwdriver," Rita said, and her voice cracked on the last word. She cleared her throat and looked away. Alina sat hard in the chair. Her hands shook as she pulled her phone out and checked the time, then checked it again like she expected it to change. "It's right," she said, not to us, to herself. "It's right." I watched her thumbs swipe the screen, bright and jittery, and realized she was doing what I'd done all morning, trying to find a clock that would obey. Officer Kendall came to the hospital later for statements. He looked tired now, the adrenaline gone. He asked the same questions 3 different ways. Where were you? When did you notice? Did you install? Did you invite? Did you see him before today? I told him the truth, which sounded absurd in a hospital waiting room, that it started with my microwave clock being different in a mirror. Kendall didn't laugh. He didn't roll his eyes. He just nodded and wrote it down. The techs are going through your house, he said. We've got a digital forensics unit pulling the DVR and router. Was it transmitting? I asked. We don't know yet. That yet was a wait. Did he live there? Rita asked quietly. Kendall's face tightened. Found evidence of access. Not a full living situation, but he'd been inside. He knew the layout. Evidence, Rita repeated like she didn't like the word. Kendall glanced toward a clipboard and then back at us. Hidden crawl access from the basement into the wall space. A small panel behind shelving. We're checking the attic too. I imagined someone moving behind my drywall while I brushed my teeth. Someone holding their breath while my footsteps passed. The thought didn't come with a cinematic shiver, and with a low nausea that made me press my tongue against my teeth and try not to gag. Alina's phone buzzed. She looked at it and then abruptly stood. I need to go home, she said. Rita frowned. Alina, you should stay. No, Alina said, voice tight. I need to check the house. I need to make sure there aren't. She stopped. Couldn't finish the sentence. I understood. The mirror in your own home becomes a question you can't answer from a hospital chair. Kendall gently shook his head. We've already got officers at your duplex for a quick check, just as a precaution. Alina stared at him. What do you mean, as a precaution? Kendall held her gaze. Because your phone time issue might not have been coincidence. We're not assuming anything, but we're being careful. Alina's face drained. Rita said softly, I'm sorry. Alina looked at me then, eyes hard and frightened. Did you bring this to us? The question was unfair, but it wasn't irrational. It was the kind of question fear asks. I don't know, I said, because it was the only honest answer. Alina's jaw tightened. She sat back down, hands gripping the chair arms as if the plastic might float her. By noon, the police had my house taped off like it was a crime scene in a show I didn't watch. My neighbors stood at a distance and tried to pretend they weren't watching. Mrs. Haverson brought over a plate of cookies and then looked confused when nobody took them. The electrician replaced the dead outlet. He found a loose connection and corrosion, the kind of mundane problem that usually makes you feel relieved. It didn't, because next to his tidy fix was the ripped open wall, the hidden cavity, the black box that had turned my mirrors into feeds and my morning into a maze. Digital forensics came in with gloves and evidence bags. They photographed the mirror panels, the wiring runs, the access point behind the basement shelves. They opened outlet plates, removed vent covers, and found 2 more cameras, one near the staircase facing the front door, one angled toward the living room couch. The officer who told me that said it in the same tone someone might use to tell you they found termites. Matter of fact. Neutral. Like the reality of being watched can be reduced to inventory. Rita stayed at the edge of the yard while they worked, phone pressed to her ear as she updated someone her boss, probably, and her voice kept breaking into sharper notes, anger leaking through professionalism. I sat on the curb with my bandaged arm resting across my knees, watching strangers carry parts of my house out in bags. Patrick was released from the hospital with a confirmed rib fracture and a prescription that made him grimace. Alina drove him home, white-knuckled. Before they left, Patrick looked at me through the open car window and said, "Don't ever call me again unless it's normal." It was half a joke, half a boundary. I nodded. Fair. Rita watched their car pull away, then sat beside me on the curb without asking. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" she asked. My mouth opened and then shut. I could have gone to a hotel. I could have gone to a friend's place in Somerville who owed me a favor. But the idea of leaving my house, of letting it sit without me, made my skin itch. Like I'd be giving the intruder one last win. "I'll stay," I said. Rita's eyes narrowed. "Jonah, I'll stay," I repeated. "Not alone, but I'm not leaving it." She studied my face for a long second. "Fine," she said. "Then you're not staying alone." I almost laughed. "Rita, you don't have to." "Yes," she said. "I do. Because if you spiral, I'm the one who's going to get the call from your boss asking why you didn't show up to work tomorrow and why you didn't answer your phone." That was Rita's version of tenderness. Practical, slightly insulting. I nodded. The officers finished their sweep by late afternoon. They told me the intruder's name, Calypso, 29, and that he had a history of trespassing charges, petty theft, and one restraining order from a former girlfriend who'd accused him of watching her through the vents. That detail landed like a dull punch. They also told me something I didn't want to hear. "We can't guarantee we found every device," Kendall said. His voice was careful, not dramatic. "We found what we found. We're confident we located the main system and the obvious placements. But these things can be small." "Small," I repeated. Kendall nodded. "You should consider a full security assessment. And until then, cover anything reflective if it makes you feel better." "If it makes me feel better," I echoed, and my laugh came out wrong. That night, my house looked like someone had moved out in a hurry. The oval mirror above the fireplace was gone, taken as evidence. The wall behind it had a ragged rectangle of exposed drywall that the forensics team had taped over in temporary plastic. I pulled every remaining mirror off the walls myself. Bathroom, hallway, bedroom dresser. I stacked them face down in the garage like they were dangerous animals that needed to be kept quiet. Then I covered anything that could reflect: the microwave door, the toaster's chrome side, the small glossy photo frame on the shelf. I draped towels over them, then second-guessed myself and added more. Rita watched me do it without commenting. She sat at my kitchen table with a mug of tea she'd made and then forgotten to drink, scrolling through her phone like she needed the light of it to stay tethered. At one point she said, "I didn't see a screen. In the living room, I thought I saw a person, like in the room." "You did," I said. "No," she shook her head hard. "I mean, I thought it was now. I thought he was right there." "He was," I said again, "just not in that moment." Rita stared at the covered microwave, the towel draped like a shroud. "That's worse." I didn't argue. I made us both sleep in the living room, not because it was safer, but because it felt wrong to go upstairs. We put the couch cushions on the floor like we were kids camping. I kept the lights on all night. The electric bill could blame me later. At 2:00 a.m., I woke up with my heart hammering, certain I'd heard footsteps. I held my breath and listened. Nothing, just the refrigerator humming, the radiator ticking, the normal noises of a house trying to keep itself warm. I lay there staring at the ceiling, arm throbbing under the bandage, and told myself it was over. I told myself that the threat was in custody. I told myself that what I'd seen in the mirrors had a rational explanation, and that rational explanations are supposed to be comforting. But every time the house creaked, my brain supplied an image of someone moving between studs. Every time the fridge kicked on, I thought of the dead outlet and the way a small, mundane fault had been sitting beside a much larger one. Near dawn, Rita got up to use the bathroom. I listened to her footsteps go down the hall. I listened to her pause. Then I heard her say softly, "Jonah." My body went instantly cold in a practical way, like a switch. I got up and walked down the hallway. She stood at the bathroom doorway, staring at the towel I'd draped over the mirror. One corner had slipped overnight, revealing a small triangle of glass, just enough to catch the light, just enough to show a reflection of the hallway behind us. And in that tiny triangle, I could see the thermostat glowing. It read 5:11. My phone in my hand read 6:02. Rita's face was pale. "I thought you took them all down," she whispered. "I did," I said, voice tight. "I did." The mirror was still the same bathroom mirror. I hadn't missed it. I'd covered it. And yet a triangle had slipped. And the time in that triangle was wrong. Not because of magic. Not because time itself had fractured. Because somewhere, somehow, something was still feeding a delayed image to a piece of glass that should have just shown my face. I reached up with careful fingers and pulled the towel fully into place, covering the triangle. Rita didn't move. "You said they couldn't guarantee," she whispered. "I know," I said. We stood there in the hallway, the house quiet, morning light thin behind the curtains, both of us holding the same thought without saying it. Even if the main system was gone, even if the man was in custody, even if this was solved, it didn't mean my house was clean. It just meant I'd learned how much damage can hide behind ordinary surfaces, and how easy it is to live with it until one morning you catch the wrong time in the corner of your eye. That's it for this nightmare. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and turn on notifications. It really helps keep the stories alive. And don't stop here. Dive into another one of our videos and keep the fear going.